welcome to the Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, episode number 68. Is it right? Is it 68?
That is correct.
It is correct, sir.
All right. Thank you. I'm Dave Z.
Hey, everybody, it's Christian here.
Brandon Newblood here.
All right. We're slowly getting better at that. Okay.
Very slowly.
Very slowly. The Babadook of podcasting. Yes.
And why is that, Brandon?
I think that's a fair assessment. The Babadook. You know, a lot of people love us. Some
but
people
nobody
hate
talks
us.
about us. See, that's the hold on now. What is a show or what is a movie that a lot of people seem to like just by like the numbers, but like nobody ever brings it up when it comes up in conversation. That's like us. Like we never get any. Nobody talks about us. Nobody says things. There's nobody on our page making memes of us. Nobody's random people aren't on our page that aren't on any other podcast group page. So yes, we do have better download numbers than a lot of shows on the network.
Oh, okay.
But like nobody talks about us or pimps us. So what movie would that be?
So we're the pin of podcasting then.
Right before we got on the air, Brandon said that my other show, TJF13, was the pin of podcasting. Very underrated. Which I appreciate. Thank you, Brandon. But now...
No, it is. It's a great show. I love listening to it. And more people need to listen.
Let's tell the listeners. Sorry to interrupt. When we're saying the pin of podcasting, everyone may not be familiar with the movie Pin from 1988. That's what we are referring to. Just, I'm trying to be conscientious of new listeners that maybe do not know what Pin is. So, continue, B. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's perfect. We get the word out for TGIF 13, and we get the word out for Pin. And why don't you plug your coffee while you're at it, since you're drinking a Timmy's?
Yeah.
He's literally drinking a Timmy's. We're not just saying that for shits and giggles. He actually is drinking a Timmy's.
I do. Yeah. We record 9:30 on Sunday nights, and about 9:10, I take a ride down the street and I get myself a medium double, and I come back and here I am.
I'm drinking Whose House? Maxwell's House. That was the worst promo ever.
Worse than ours? The one that we have out there?
I said, actually, just put it in a text today. We've got to make a shorter version of that because it's 2 minutes long. And I know we said, fuck it, it's 2 minutes. It's us. It should be. But I want to do a shorter one for people that want like 30-second promos.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to try one right now?
Right now.
On the fly?
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. This is Dave Z. I'm one of the members of the Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast.
Hey, Dave, guess I'm another host on said show. My name's Christian.
Oh, yeah, and I'm Brandon, and I'm barely hanging on to my job as the third host.
Barely is right. Listen to Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast on
the Horrorphilia Network of Podcasts, the Legion Network of Podcasts, on iTunes, on Stitcher, and anywhere that fine podcasts are heard, I guess. That sound good, guys?
That sounds fucking A.
Great. Ringing endorsement. Thanks, guys. Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast. Look us up. Check us out. Peace. There it is.
There it is. Our new promo.
That's it. Our new
That
promo.
might have actually worked, but I genuinely spaced out. Improv is not my thing. But
Hey, that's like you on the show. So, hey, it's a
Hey.
Boom. Let's talk about tonight. We're going to talk about some horror movies. We're going to talk about psycho sequels. That's right.
I'm excited about that.
I'm very excited. Psycho sequels, just 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
We didn't do Bates Motel or that remake.
No. Just sequels, because that's all we want to talk about. And we already did part 1 on our Proto Slashers show. I want to say show number 40.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Boom. So if you want to hear us talk about the original Psycho, go to show 40, listen to that, and then fast forward to this show and pick it up from there, because we're going to be talking about those 3 movies. Psycho sequels. That's what it's all about. Wow, say that 3 times in a row, right? Shit.
Psycho sequels.
Psycho sequels.
Just 3 times, Brandon. Math was never your forte.
I wanted to do it 6.
Just to double the effort?
I wanted it to turn not Psycho sequel, but it didn't.
No, you wanted it to go to cycle sequels, didn't you?
Yeah, I wanted something like that, but
there are some good cycle sequels out there if you think about it. You know, Grease 2, that's a cycle sequel. You know, they went from cars to bikes. Isn't the Lost Boys 2 about motorcycles too?
I never saw Lost Boys 2.
I think it is. I think it's a motorcycle gang, so that's a cycle sequel. And anybody else?
Well, they never made Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man too. So we'll never
Rad
know.
2?
Rad?
Rad 2?
Oh, yeah. Rad.
Cruise Revenge?
Oh,
Cruise-
Rad 2, huh?
With Crew Jones.
Crew
Wasn't there
Jones?
another one, BMX Extreme or something like that?
BMX Bandits.
That's what it was.
That was, what's her name's first movie?
Oh,
Nicole
Nicole
America's
Kidman.
Got Talent?
Nicole Kidman, thank you.
Ah, there you go, Nicole Kidman. I was thinking of the girl from America's Got Talent.
She played one of the bikes.
Yeah. No, she played M. B and X were played by someone else.
BNX. Nice. Okay, so yeah, Psycho sequels. We're going to do a couple triple R's in between. If you don't know what that is, that's round robin reviews. However, 2 of them tonight are going to be movies that all 3 of us saw. So it may go fairly quickly. So altogether, you're going to get a decent amount of reviews, but
And plenty of entertainment.
we hope.
We promise.
I'm
We're trying.
optimistic.
Listen, if they haven't hung up by now, they're regular listeners or they're new listeners, and they're gonna get the show. So we'll see. They're gonna be digging the pin of podcasting. So yeah, okay. Shall we get right into it? Shall we dive into this Psycho sequel pool?
Perfect. Balls deep. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. B, are you ready for your synopsis?
Yeah, I'm ready. Psycho 2 from 1983, directed by Richard Franklin, written by Tom Holland. After 22 years of psychiatric care, Norman Bates attempts to return to life of solitude, but the specters of his crimes and his mother continue to haunt him.
Ooh, specters. Wow.
Yeah, that's fresh off the B. I didn't
All
make
right.
that up.
Fresh off the B, only way to go. I'm going to say one thing at the beginning of the show, and I'm going to say it one time. I have noticed that upon multiple viewings of these sequels, and I have seen them multiple times, but upon all these viewings, there's one of these movies that every time I watch it, I enjoy it more and more. And there are other movies in this franchise that every time I watch them, I start to enjoy them less and less.
I feel exactly the same, and I hope it's the same movies that we line up on. I really feel like it's going to be.
And don't get me wrong, I am not. I'll tell you this: I am not going to shit on any movie tonight. But
No,
I'm
me
just saying-
either. I still
Okay.
love the film, but that we're going to talk about, but not as much as I thought I did.
Wow. And you know that I think I know what you guys are talking about. I'm not saying I agree with it, but because this is not the first time we've talked about these films. So it popped up on our part 2 lists, part 3 lists, more or less, when we did those as little segments in previous shows. We also talked about them on the 86 show when we
Yeah,
were on
we talked
22
about one of
shots. So
them.
we did Psycho 3. So based on some of the jibber jabber that we've had in the past, I
And
think,
episode 50.
yeah, true. Exactly.
Yeah.
Our
Slasher
episode
show.
50, of course, the 7.5-hour epic show that we did last year. I have a feeling I know where you guys are going. And so I'll just make a prediction that your enjoyment level went slightly down for 2 and has gone up for 3. That's my prediction right now. I will say my enjoyment has remained the same for 2 of these and went up ever so slightly for one of them.
Interesting.
And I'm
Very
not going to
interesting.
shit on any of them either. So I'm looking
Well-
forward to this show.
If you remembered anything that I personally said on episode 50 and on the 86 show, you probably would know where I'm going. But we'll see. We'll get to that. So let's talk about part 2 first.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Great
I love this
music.
one. I love
Great
it.
music. Jerry
Oh.
Goldsmith.
Oof.
Fantastic.
Dean Cundy?
Dean
Right?
Cundy. Yeah, this one is a legit sequel.
We have people. I know Bill out there, Bill Casanelli, for all the listeners out there. I think he says that this trumps the original for him. Now, the original is and made my top film of all time, horror film of all time. It's hard to trump, but I'm going to say that this sequel does everything a sequel should do right. I can't believe how much effort was put into this, from the concept to the script, the fact, imagine they didn't get Anthony Perkins back, like initially.
Oh.
It was going to
Yeah,
be a
and
made-for-TV movie.
And given the fact that it's
No.
legitimately 23 years later, and it's still, it flows into it seamlessly.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the tagline 22 years later?
Yeah.
I think it is supposed to take place.
22. It's supposed to take
Yeah.
place in 82. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on.
Yeah,
22?
cool.
How can you not remember that magic number?
Well,
No,
That's
I
it.
knew it was 22 years later, but it came out in 83. So I'm just saying it's 23 years between the release of the first one to the second
Yeah.
one.
Well, there you go. So you're right. 23 it is.
No, I knew he was right. I just wanted to make sure that, people were going to be yelling at their freaking phones going, Brandon, what the fuck? It's 22 years later. But
No,
that's
I
it, though.
know
We're
the
just
thing.
clearing it up. Clearing shit up over here.
Got to cover our asses. Cover our asses.
I will have a few questions throughout this review about certain scenes in the movie and who's responsible for certain things.
Oh, yes, and I have some. I took some pictures. I felt like a detective. I took a few close-up pictures of Mother in a couple scenes and saying, "This is definitely this
I didn't get that
person.
crazy, but I had a few things specifically with notes.
And I didn't do it to be a jerk because I love the film, but I understand why they would do it in the context of the film to throw off the viewer. But in the context of the film, knowing it so well, you know that person can't possibly be that person. But it's not an insult to the film. It's just you have to do that sometimes. Otherwise, things are going to be given away. So, but that's neither here nor there. We'll get to it when we get to it. I think this is an amazing intro right off the bat with the black and white Universal coming up, immediately tributing part one. They go into the shower scene, which you might think upon first view, oh boy, this is a cash grab. The first thing they're going to show is the most famous scene from the first movie. And the movie ends up being anything but that. It ends up being amazing. Just like B said, you got Jerry Goldsmith, we got Dean Cundy. Everything fits perfectly.
You've got the fact, the only thing that they could have added to this was to have Sam Loomis return as well. Because I think he was still alive when this movie came out. And I don't know the history there. It may be on an audio commentary, I don't know. But you still had Vera Miles. And
great.
And that's what sells it. So you have Vera with her child, Anthony Perkins getting out. Norman Bates has been released. He's coming back after 22 years. What a great idea. And the fact that it talks about that rehabilitation. Can a killer truly be rehabilitated and re-enter society? I mean, it plays around with those themes as well throughout the whole movie. It's just well thought out.
Yeah, it plays around with that theme throughout the whole series, and I think that's what makes this series in particular far superior to a lot of franchises because, man, Norman Bates is one of the most likable villains, if you want to even call him a villain.
Agreed.
Because I find myself rooting for him in every movie. I mean, Anthony Perkins is just phenomenal in this role. And you know what? You're right with the Sam Loomis thing, but at least, you know, they give the line when the police officer recognizes her that, you know, she asks about Sam and he said that he passed away. So,
yeah.
So
you know what? I think it would have been a little too cluttered with Sam Loomis in this film as well. Because really, what else can he do? Just be running around with Vera Miles all movie? Because you're going to add another element to this movie. We already have it's already a whodunit. We got 3 different things going on. So to have him involved, I don't even know where he would fit in. So
you know
I think
what?
it might have worked out for the better.
True.
I always thought it was a little weird that Lila wound up marrying Sam after Marion was killed. So it just, So I think if Sam was in it, it might have been a little awkward.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they just wanted to have. They just did that just for
yeah, no, I get it. It makes sense, but I feel like they would have maybe had to explain it, or he would have had to bring up Marion a little too much if he was around. I think it works better as the sister dynamic. Her Lila, you know, arguing against Norman getting released and getting petitions signed, you know, in Marion's memory. And for the others, she even references like the other kills.
Right. Which is good. That all works out great in the beginning. They're in the courtroom when they're talking about it, and you know the doctor's there, and Norman's there, and right away you get that first shot of Norman when he's in the chair. It's almost like a Hitchcock type shot. This movie is also shot very well. They went the extra mile, and I'm going to steal something from the Psycho legacy. I don't know who said it. I don't know if it was Rob G. who's responsible for it, or I don't know if it was another historian from the Psycho movies. But I'm not going to take credit for this. But I've always remembered this line. That the guy basically said, he goes, the easiest thing they could have done is in 1983, when this movie came out, is have it been a cash grab, have kids be in this house, and have Norman escape from the hospital, and freaking go there and be a typical knock 'em off, freaking slice and dice slasher film. Just because that's what was hard at the time. It would have been very easy to do. They have the name, they have the rights. If they can get Anthony Perkins to come back, all they had to do is have this guy be a psycho, escape, dress up in his mother's clothes, and whack people off and maybe have a little bit of a whodunit. Right?
It's interesting because Norman isn't really even a psycho, so it's funny because he's so relatable and you can't even say he's a psycho. He's just a victim of his upbringing.
Although Toomey would disagree. Huh, you loony!
He's great. He's
He
great.
is
Dennis
great.
Franz is great in this movie.
Oh, isn't he?
I love what they've turned the hotel into. Like he turned it into like pretty much
A den of debauchery.
an adult
Ooh.
motel.
I believe
What
it's
do
what they call it. Adult motel. Yeah.
What do your guests get? Dead?
Yeah.
At least my guests have a good time. What do your guests get? Murdered. Murdered by you loony. I fucking love him. He's great. Everybody in this movie fits their role perfect. They're all memorable characters. Robert Loggia is fucking great as the doctor, and he is just a genuinely good guy. You see that he cares for Norman, and Norman is a good guy in this film. So you're pulling for him. Toomey is hysterical.
First issue, though.
Mary, at first you like her, then you kind of don't like her, and then you like her. That's the way I look. I mean, the heel, the bad guy in this movie, is Vera Miles. What's her name? Pardon me, I'm using her real name, but whatever the hell her name is. Lila Loomis, double L.
First issue with the film comes with Dr. Richmond, and it has nothing to do with Robert Loggia, his acting, his character. I agree with you that he's very likable, and it's a great character. All the characters are well written for what they're supposed to represent. But as his doctor, don't you think, like, right off the bat, like, why would you let Norman return to the scene of the crime, that, like, the scene of where, like, his abuse took place and what set him off in the first place?
I think that every time, but without that, we don't have our movie. It's just one of those things. Would you
It's
want to have
true,
this movie at any other house but the Psycho house?
It's true, but it's like you can't ignore that.
You're right. Listen, I know. I
He's
guess
supposed to be cured. It's 22.
That's true. That's
He's
true.
supposed to be
22
cured.
years, he's cured. He's cured. Where else is he gonna go? This is his residence. I can buy it. Like, I'm not docking any points or anything for this. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. And also,
no, it's a fair observation.
yeah, and when Norman gets back to the house, when Richmond brings him back to the house, is when he first sees the first note from Mother. That note, I have no idea who left.
At the house, or I thought the first note was in the diner.
No, the first note was in the house, and it was I'll be home later or something. That could have been from the past.
That's Vera Miles, because they've already
But
concocted
Vera
the
Miles,
plan.
but she's still at the courthouse. So you're saying she left it way before?
Oh, they didn't just concoct this. Oh, he's getting it tomorrow. She knows it's coming, and I think she had this contingency plan to say, like, we're not letting this murderer out. He killed my sister, and so she concocted this thing with her daughter, because the daughter's at the diner working already.
Yeah, the daughter's
there's too
at
many
the diner.
coincidences.
Yeah,
True. They said she's been there a week.
Barry's at the diner. Mrs. Spool is at the diner. So who is responsible for the note at the diner then? See, I'm thinking it's Mary, only because we learn in the end that Mrs. Spool doesn't want to drive Norman crazy.
I think it is Mary. I don't think there's any question about it, actually.
Okay.
I watched this scene with intent this time for one reason only, because the note gets lost. And I wanted to make sure I paid attention to everything that was going on in this scene. And of course you see that the note does fall, and when he goes over there, his shoe happens to be on top of it. And that's all very believable. It's a short note. You see when the note gets knocked off. So it works. I'm getting notes from Mother. He turns around, he panics, he fucks with Toomey. The only thing that doesn't work, I hate to say this, but if Mary put it there, she's kind of talking out of both sides of her mouth, because she is in the bar, and drunk Toomey comes in, and he's harassing Mary. And Mary says, you want to know how Norman is? Better than you'll ever be, you fat bastard, or something like this. So she has already taken the role of defending Norman. So if she is defending Norman, why is she at the same time putting the notes on the thing? That's a minuscule complaint, but that's all I'm saying. That's the only issue with that.
And
I think it's.
Oh, sorry, Brandon. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. I was gonna say I think it's real simple. I think she feels an obligation to her mother. I think very quickly on she starts to sympathize with Norman, and she's sort of torn between her mother and Norman the whole movie, obviously.
And it's fair.
Exactly what I was going to say.
And you guys agree, Mary put the note on there.
That's what I think.
Well, yeah, and it's funny. The only reason I was looking at Mrs. Spool's reaction is she really doesn't have one. So that's why I just assumed it had to be the mother-daughter.
Well, yeah, and what does Mrs. Spool have to gain by fucking with him anyway? Her job is to defend him. She knows that they're fucking with him. So, you know what I mean? She thinks she's the mother. She's taking the role of mother. She's not going to mess with them unless she legitimately says something. But what does she care if Mary comes in the house? I mean, although she would care if Mary's coming in the house because she knows that she's fucking with her. So maybe Mrs. Spool could have done it just to keep the girl out of the house. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Just occurred to me now. Because doesn't the note say, don't let that whore come back in our house or something like that? Or am I wrong?
It does say that.
Ah, maybe it is Mrs. Spool then, because she knows that Mary's messing with her. I don't know. So either way, it works.
That's exactly what the note said. Now I think you might be right.
See, well, the thing is, it works no matter who it is. So it's cool either way. It doesn't matter. It works. It works for both purposes, because that's what's great about this movie.
It's either a warning from Mrs. Spool or just a mental fuck from Lila or Mary. So either way, you're right. It works.
Which is cool. See?
Yeah.
Nice. I never thought about that till just now, but all these years I just assumed it's Mary. But again, when you're reviewing certain things that I paid closer attention to this time around, I'm like, okay, if there's any questions in this film, because I do have a very few, as much as I adore the film, and I do, I do have a few small questions, but none of them were pertaining to that scene, so we're okay.
You know what?
I think it goes from, as the movie progresses, to what degree they're taking this to make all things point towards Norman losing his sanity. I'm pointing to the guy getting killed in the cellar, the boy.
That's a great scene when he's locked in the attic.
Great scene, but I mean that's a scene where I think many detractors of the film will point towards as saying, okay, really, they're going to this extent to prove he's insane, because you're pointing to that it would be Vera Miles doing the killing.
But we know it's not Vera Miles doing the killing.
Exactly.
Which is great.
But
I see what you're saying. You think that a person watching it,
yeah.
Okay.
But then, so I don't know. We never go linearly when we're talking about these films, so I figured we could jump all over the place. So that's Mrs. Spool.
Yeah. Mrs. Spool commits every murder.
Well, there's where I'm going.
The last one. Yeah.
There's where I'm going with it, is that because of that, this is where the detractors come from, because she's a very old lady.
And this is who is in the basement. Look, that is the killer in the basement that actually does the killing.
Looks like Michael Myers.
It does. And it's really creepy. I don't know why that's making me very unsettled.
Yeah, it is creepy. But you know what? It's definitely Mrs. Spool. And she was definitely older, but I think still capable of surprising and killing someone. I mean, the kids were terrified and stuff. I think the main issue people could have is, okay, so Mary and Lila are enacting their plan to drive Norman crazy by showing him the bedroom all made up. Then they lock him in the attic so they can switch it back. So they're doing that whole plan. Right. How is Mrs. Spool in the house to kill the kid?
Why not? Mrs. Spool is watching them the whole time, because that's what she says. I knew that they're messing with you. I'm making sure it's not going to happen. So Mrs. Spool is always on the case, so to speak.
Yeah, she's always there, and she never gets seen because she's the one looking through the peephole the time when Mary runs out and she thinks it's Norman, and then she walks down the stairs and sees him playing the piano, which happens to be a great scene. I love the way she looks at him. I love that. I love the connection between Mary and Norman, and it was interesting because I read the IMDb trivia, and it said that Meg Tilly had no idea about the success of Psycho, never saw it, and so she complained. She said, "Why is Tony getting all the attention?" And he wanted to fire her.
Yep.
But half the scenes were already shot. I didn't know that, and I thought that was just a great little trivia tidbit, because their connection in this film is by far the best connection of any of Norman's female counterparts in any of the films.
Anthony Perkins wanted to fire her?
Oh, yeah, because this is a major thing. They didn't get along. Anthony Perkins wanted her fired because, just like B said, she was complaining. She was like, "How come he's getting all the attention? Why is he so special?" I don't know what the deal was, but there was they did not get along because she complained. So you have two people that in real life are not getting along, but you'd never know when you watch the film.
Honestly, I had no clue. Again, it's funny that I feel like I've watched this movie so many times, but I have never really researched it. I didn't know they didn't get along.
You really should watch The Psycho Legacy, and I've watched The Psycho Legacy twice, and I've watched on the Scream Factory Blues. I've watched all the extras, and
Well, that's it. I don't have those. I just have.
Yeah, I don't have them either. So. I have that 4-pack, which is actually a good DVD. But I'll tell you I don't watch enough special features and enough documentaries about these films. So I mean, it's interesting. Sometimes the stories behind it are more interesting than the movies themselves.
It's very interesting in this film. And I'll say one quick thing about this film. This film does something that the others do in this series, but I think they do it the perfect amount and not too much, is the way they tribute the original. I think in the other movies, it seems more forced and the card is overplayed. And I think the way they do it here is 100% perfect. If you're a fan of the original, that's how I feel about this. They do it just right.
Agreed.
I would agree with that. Yep.
Agreed.
You know, another shower scene, certain lines that he says, certain, but not overkill, not every other line like they're doing in some of the other ones where it got to be a little too much for me. You know, that little nod to Hitchcock with the shadow on the wall, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Just certain things, you know, just I could go on and on.
No, I think the performances are all great in this one, and I've mentioned that I thought he kind of overacts in part 3, and we'll get there. But I thought he was perfect in this, and I do like the slow descension back into him questioning whether he's becoming confused again. And I thought it really plays out for a movie. I believe this one clocks in at close to 2 hours. I think it's an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty long.
It doesn't ever feel long.
No.
But there's a lot to it. You're talking about nods to the original, the swamp action again. Like they go to the swamp, and those are the things that make this shine. Because you're right, they could have taken the quick jack easy way and just made it a straight out slasher film. And there's a lot of thought put into this behind it. I think that comes from Tom Holland writing it.
Yeah.
Again, another thing we may have mentioned before, but isn't it kind of funny how the first one, there wasn't enough of faith in it that at one point Hitchcock thought it was going to be part of his Alfred Hitchcock Presents or was going to be made for TV. And then he said, no, we're going to do it with a TV crew with a lower budget, but he made it a feature film. And here we are with part 2. They weren't sure if Anthony Perkins was going to come back, and they were going to make it as a made-for-TV movie because there wasn't that much faith in a sequel. And yet then Anthony Perkins came back, and they made it into a great theatrical film.
I think I saw 2 before 1, to be honest with you. And you know what? As far as this movie's effect on society, a lot of people still to this day don't even know this movie exists. They think of Psycho. They didn't even know that there's sequels. To this day, no one knows about them. Oh, dude.
That's a shame because they're really solid.
I don't mean hardcore horror fans like us. But
yeah, that's true. We're surrounded by people that know so much about horror, but I think a lot of the mainstream don't recognize that Psycho has sequels.
Psycho sequels. My aunt is watching Bates Motel right now. My aunt is like 66 years old, and she's watching Bates Motel, and she's in love with it. And I was talking to her the other day about it. Of course, she knows that I like it, you know, so she's flying through them. And the other day she says, I love Norman Bates. She sent me a text. And I said, I do too. I said, I'm watching him right now. She goes, you're watching Bates Motel? I said, no, I'm watching Psycho 3. She said, there's a 3? I go, yeah, there's a 3, there's a 2. So she goes, I had no idea. I said, yeah. I go, listen, you got to see these movies. Anyway, so until I talked to her, this woman, you know, she knows shit. She knows, you know, she had no idea it existed. Freaking crazy. My wife's uncle, around the same age, he's here visiting us. So he sees what I'm watching at night. So in the evening when he goes to bed, I put on the TV. I start watching the Psycho movies. He comes downstairs to walk his dog before bedtime. And each of the 3 nights this week, he's like, what are you watching? Psycho 2, Psycho 3, Psycho 4. He's like, how many of these are there? I didn't know there was more than one. You know what I mean? So
you should have told your aunt there was no Psycho 2 after you told her you were watching Psycho 3. That would have freaked her out.
Yeah, it would have been like the other movie we're going to talk about later, Part 3 in 2D.
Yeah.
She probably was wondering why Vince Vaughn isn't in any of them.
I wonder if anybody knows it was remade. Probably not.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they do.
Did you guys notice in the movie that at one point Norman refers to his mother as Mrs. Bates?
What part?
I forgot where it was. It was towards the end. I think it was with Dr. Richmond or something.
I think he does. I think you're right. I wish I would.
I found it comical. Some of Norman's delivery is funny.
Always has been. It was funny in the first film. So
I found it more so in this one though. You know, even the I don't kill people anymore, remember? But the funniest is when he's standing over Mary with a knife. That's when he's like, I'm becoming confused again, aren't I? And she's like, no, you're not. He's like, don't lie to me, not you. And he's got the knife. He's like, yep, you're confused. Instantly. And
I'll tell you what. She wasn't afraid of him until that's why I'll give her credit. She's going to sleep in a room next to this guy with a knife in his hand and be comfortable doing it. And she's telling him not to be scared because he's locking the door because he's afraid of what's on the other side of the door. She should be the one that's scared. And she does not believe for 1 second this man is capable of murder. And when this movie starts and knowing that, you know, she's the daughter of Lyle Loomis and all that, think about how far she came in that short of time just by hanging out with them. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, they developed such a strong relationship. In fact, that was one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie when when they're embracing in the bed and he's crying and he's talking about the cheese sandwiches.
Oh yeah,
I love that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. That's where their relationship felt completely genuine. And the scene with the knife is shortly after that. I understood it. She felt guilty because she felt like she was responsible for what's happening to him, for him becoming unraveled. She never felt threatened by him, just worried for his own safety.
Well, she should feel guilty because that's when it happened. It was when he got locked in the basement and freaking locked in the bedroom and that shit happened with the room was like this before, and then the cops come to the house asking about the boy and everything else. All that happened, and then that's when he had that breakdown. He said it's starting again. It was right then, and then he changes. Then he gets the phone calls, and then all of a sudden it's mother, and it's my real mother, and all this other shit. And then the doctor comes and they dig up Mrs. Bates in the they dig her up, which I don't think that would happen that many years later.
It's a cool scene. It's a cool scene though to see it. I mean, that's a great looking skeleton. But I love the fact that he's so nonchalant about learning that he has a new mother.
I didn't want to seem dumb before, but are you guys sure Mrs. Spool killed that kid in the basement and it's not Vera Miles? Because why the fuck would she have a knife and the wig, and why would that picture look the way it does that you showed us if it's supposed to be Mrs. Spool? And why does she get so mad at Meg Tilly or Mary later when she's like, why did you say that you were with Norman all afternoon? Why did you cover for him? She gets so furious, which is why I asked the question and why I said about the detractors, but then you guys kind of made me feel like, okay, I know Mrs. Spool mentioned she's crazy and may have something to do with it, but I always thought that Vera Miles or Lila Loomis was responsible for that one murder.
Now, even when Mary brings up these certain deaths and and asks her mother about where she was, she's not even aware of these things. And Mary's talking about how there's someone in the house. She's becoming paranoid herself, even though it turns out that she's not. But I was totally convinced that it was Mrs. Spool.
I was too, but I'm so glad you brought that up because that's my note, and that's what I thought about as I'm watching it. Why would it be necessary for Mother to carry a knife? Mother didn't carry a knife.
But she has the wig right, and a knife under that brick.
Yes,
and I'm like, there's no point. So to dress up in the wig in the window is one thing, but to have a butcher knife,
right?
Is it to throw the viewer? Is it to throw them off again? I know that's why I always said, well, that's kind of weird that they went to such extreme, and maybe she's protecting her daughter, not telling her to what extreme she's capable of going to try to get Bates back in the loony bin. So I
think that's a good red herring then, but I think it's got to be Mrs. Spool, and it totally makes sense why she would dress up. Because she knows the story, and she's unhinged herself, obviously.
Well, it has got to be Mrs. Spool because then she does get a butcher knife right through the head, right in the mouth. Vera Miles
what
does.
a great kill!
All the kills are good.
Dr. Richmond's is freaking brutal when he falls. Oh my God.
Even the kills that don't happen are great. With Norman, the most cringe-worthy scene in this film is when the Norman has the knife in his hands and she pulls it back.
Oh man, the sound effects with that is really cool. I like the sound effects. I don't know.
My wife. No, you know what? That was one thing I noted. The one thing I don't like about this is that noise they make with the stab noises. I would have been happier with a Bernard Herrmann riff. I know that, you know what, you got to give them credit. They avoided the ring, except for the opening shower. But I would have been happier with that being a Psycho sequel. If any movie's going to be able to use it, it might as well be part of the franchise. And I wasn't very fond of that noise that they used.
It made me cringe with that noise. I didn't mind it, but if Bernard Herrmann had put in a riff, I wouldn't have complained either.
Or they just did a variation, like Jerry goes did a variation of it. Would have been fine. But yeah, that's always been my thing. I said, so did Vera Miles kill the boy only to get killed later? Because she said, did you clean the basement? She asked Mary if she cleaned the basement, doesn't she?
Right.
So how would she know the basement was covered in blood?
No.
I'm getting confused again.
So am I. Just like
now I'm totally confused.
Someone cleaned the basement, and this is what it was. Mary told the cops she cleaned the basement. Norman asked Mary, did you clean the basement? And she said no. But we as the viewer, when we get our reveal, we have to believe that.
Cleaned it.
Yeah, Mrs. Spool cleaned the basement after she did the murder.
Well,
Right.
Mary just said she did because she wanted to protect Norman because she knew if she said no, then Norman's getting arrested.
Because remember, she comes there. She tells them. She tells Norman before they even get to the door. She goes, "Norman, don't tell them about the bedroom." Isn't that what she said? She's like, the cops come. She said, "Don't tell them about." Yeah, don't tell them about the bedroom. How it was changed and went back and all that. So right away, she was already defending him.
And that's fine. And I've watched the movie enough to realize that. But I've always thought that one segment was Vera. But I was okay with it because I said, you know what, she like it's for the greater good, even though she is just murdering a kid.
The greater good.
The greater good.
The greater good. Sorry, hot buzz.
However, I'm totally fine with it being Mrs. Spool. However, how can a little teenage kid not like push over an older lady?
Okay, you're going to talk to me about this? We're Friday the 13th fans.
I know.
Mrs. Voorhees did.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
And that brings me to my next point. We have Friday the 13th that Victor Miller said, I didn't know I was doing a riff on the Psycho thing and just kind of reverse Psycho. Whatever. Whether he knew it or not, it's there, and obviously he realizes that after the fact that that's what he did. Now it's kind of funny that Psycho 2 seems to borrow from Friday the 13th.
Yeah, much like Halloween did with Halloween 2. Same thing. One borrows from the other, and they take back what's hot. Let's do what we're going to do. But when Psycho 2 does it, they do it.
Well, it's classic.
Not so.
It's classic. I mean,
Right.
it's a
It's not
classy
so blatant.
movie. And so there's the difference. Like you're talking about Friday the 13th being quote-unquote lowbrow and Psycho 2 being more highbrow. I can accept that. I can understand that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that, it looks like, a page was torn from Friday the 13th lore, so to speak.
We're getting much more psychological and in depth in this, so obviously this one seems much more highbrow and is, but
you have to have that. That's good. That speaks to the time. You want to see that shit. A couple kids getting high and screwing around, and I like that's in there.
Oh, I'm not talking about that element from Friday the 13th. I'm talking about the mother-son thing. The mother-son. I got major vibes of that's my boy. Good, Jason. That's what I'm talking about. Like the mother doing the killing to protect her boy.
You know what's great though?
Okay,
as much as
nice.
I see that as well, Norman shuts that shit down right away.
Indeed, in one of my favorite kills ever.
My dad has never been one for gore. He always liked it to be presented like psychologically, and he rewound that. Him and I both rewound that scene 5 times because of how well constructed that shovel to the head sequence is.
And it's so shocking the first time you ever see it.
Yes, it is. And the way it looks, how we get the shot from above when he's walking. Oh, man. Everything about it is great. And did you notice that he was waiting for her, but what was he making? Toasted cheese sandwich.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Wow, that's awesome.
He was making toasted cheese sandwiches because he knew mother was coming.
Didn't he offer her to share his sandwich?
Yes, he did.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
And he was waiting, and he knew that mother was coming. He knew there was another person that called. He knew that person was going to come, and he said to himself, because by that time he snapped, I'm going to keep mother again, because this is my real mother. So, boom, I'm going to win after all this.
I have a question. Did he poison her, too, or did she just, cough on the tea?
See,
I think he poisoned it. He reached for it.
Me too.
I think that's what he was doing, but I guess he just... Well, I didn't know why the shovel, but the shovel's just such a great...
The shovel's great. It's like poison shovel. It's it's an added bonus.
Yeah, I've always wondered why poison if you're going to shovel, but it's still cool, Well,
that should be a bumper. That should be a bumper sticker. Why poison when you can shovel?
Yeah, we'll be rich.
Nice.
Put our logo at the bottom.
How about Mary?
We should start doing
One
that.
last thing I gotta bring up, and I don't know what it doesn't bother me. I actually find it kind of comical, but Mary's pirouette that she does as she gets shot by the cops. She raises a knife, she gets shot, and she does like a 720 turn and falls into the other room.
It's a dramatic death.
It's very dramatic.
My thing is the picture that you posted on our Facebook group page, Dave, the iconic shot that we always attribute to Psycho 1, but it's actually more from Psycho 2. Well, it is in Psycho 1, but that scene where he's looking up at the window and mother being in the window at the end. I will say this, and my wife thought it looked weird too. they keyed him in too large. So he looks like a giant in that scene. They should have made him a little smaller. The scale seems a little off. As much as I love the shot, I noticed it, and my wife, who hadn't seen the sequel before, said, he looks really weird there.
No shit. That never occurred to me. I always love it so much that
Yeah, I didn't see it as well, but it makes sense you would see it since you really, the technical guy.
Well, it's weird that because like I've seen the house or what they've used for it, and you're kind of wondering why they needed to still key that. I guess they wanted to make him look larger than life almost because there'd be no other reason. Indeed, there'd be no other reason to key him in. So
it could have been intentional.
It could have been intentional.
That's fine. It should be, because it's that's what's amazing about this film, that you spend the majority of this movie feeling bad for him and wanting him to be normal and wanting him to be innocent and not for anything bad to happen to him. You're completely on Norman's side in this film. Everything he's been through, and even everything that transpired in the first film, you give him a pass because of everything that happened with his mother. And, it was a mental disorder. Now he's better. You're pulling for Norman the whole movie not to snap. And then what's beautiful about this film is that when he finally does snap, and when you see him, and after he kills Mrs. Spool, and he walks out there, and Mother's back in the thing, and they have that whole thing, well, what are you gogging at? Go out and run the motel. What do you expect us to live on? Hope? That whole
I lost
your
it.
Your favorite line.
I love it. It's brilliant, isn't it? And then he goes outside, and the music plays, and it's a fist pump moment. It's like, motherfucker, Norman's back. All this movie.
It's Breakfast Club.
and Mother Stuffer, too.
Mother Stuffer.
Oh, it's like a John Bender moment. Yeah. No, but think about that. All movie you're wishing he's okay, and you don't want anything bad to happen to him. But then when he finally does snap, you're so happy that he's back to being a killer again. You forget all of the thing that happened in the whole hour and 48 minutes before. You're just happy to see Norman, boom, in front of the house. I'm motherfucking badass Norman Bates, bitch.
I'm Norman Bates! That's what he should have screamed up into like a Malachi moment. I'm Norman Bates! This guy.
And that's why I love that scene so much, because it's the return of Norman. It's so badass. I love it. I'm so happy they put it on the poster.
Should have a bolt of lightning hit him right there.
Oh no, this isn't Jason Lives.
Norman comes back in part 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, son of Norman Bates. Yeah. Okay, let me throw something at you guys. Nobody brought it up.
Throw it out.
Mary's setting this whole thing up on the phone. Think about that. Were they that smart? Like when Norman first walks into the back of that diner the very first time, Mary is already having an argument on her phone with her boyfriend. So did she really stage that to happen right when he came in because he was being introduced? And it happened the second time when Norman leaves the diner, his first night of employment. Soon as he's walking out, she's on the phone arguing with her boyfriend, and she hangs up mad, and he approaches her and offers her a place to stay. Is that happenstance, or is this woman, are they that damn good that they programmed it, or they prepared this step?
Not only are they that damn good, but she even goes so far as to leave to go stay with an imaginary girlfriend, and then comes back and tells Norman that that she can't stay with her because she's always having sex with her boyfriend.
Well, I think some
so
of
it's all. I think it's all made up. I think some of it's made up, and some of it might be legit.
I think there's script. I can't speak tonight. Script conveniences. So I think obviously she doesn't know when Norman the fuck is coming into the diner.
Is there a scotch?
She
doesn't know he's coming in. That the doctor dropped him off. The
doctor said you have to be at work by noon, so I'm sure Mary would know. Oh, the new guy's starting at noon.
Oh yeah, they know that I can buy. Sure.
I still think that's a script convenience. Her arguing then and there, and she could easily have a boyfriend, or she could be talking to her mother. Who knows? The one outside was definitely, I would say, was fixed and forced so that Norman would see it and they could stage the whole meet and greet and have him invite her back and whatnot. And I don't think there was a friend.
That's what I want to
No,
know. Is there a
probably.
boyfriend at all, or is it just her working for her mother and the whole thing is a ruse and she just happens to know when to go on the phone and she happens to be able to pinpoint what Norman's going to do
Yeah,
to
no
see a few
boyfriend.
steps ahead.
I'd
Yeah,
say no boyfriend.
yeah. I go elaborate plot, no boyfriend.
I do too, but that's one thing that's always bothered me. I'm like, not bothered me, it's just always crossed my mind when I watch it. I'm like, gee, it's awful convenient that this happened here and that this happened here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is why I did not, and I'm not going to get to it just yet, but that is why I did not give this movie a 10 out of 10 when I did it. Because if you guys remember, when we did the slasher show, I'll tell you what, I'm pretty sure it's in my top 10. It was in my top 10. You know what? Let me look up my exact.
I think Psycho 2 made all of our top 10s, no?
Spoiler alert, it's in our Hall of Fame unless someone's changed the rating tonight.
Which
Right.
you think we have.
Yeah.
Right, which you think we do have.
Now that
Let me
we've
look
talked
at my
about it, though,
rating.
I don't think that anymore.
It was my number 8. It was my number 8 slasher.
I want to say it was my number 9. I don't have my list, but I really want to say it was my number 9.
And I gave it a 9.5, and I don't change. I still give it a 9.5, and I said on the show, it's not Psycho. It's not part 1, but it's not that far from it. I can't give it a 10 for those slight plot inconveniences that we've said, but it's still a 9.5 for me, and I still love it, and that's all there is to it.
It ranked number 17 on my 50 best slashers, and I gave it a 9 out of 10. And I still give it a 9 out of 10. And I have no problem going higher. But you know what? I wrote 9 out of 10 down for tonight. I'm sticking to it.
And this is why I made our Hall of Fame, because I'm pretty sure I gave it a 9.5, and I'm still at a 9.5. Those minor quibbles just keep me also, Dave, from giving it a 10. Stunning film.
Absolutely, and they are minor, but what a great film. And there's a couple small things that I picked up this time that with not flashbacks, with tributes to part 1. You realize when Lila Loomis gets killed, it's almost the same shot as when the shower scene with her sister.
When the
Uh,
knife comes down?
Her mouth opens up.
Yeah.
There's like there's similarities there. Another similarity is at the end when in part 1, remember, of course, Norman's in the thing, he gets the blanket, and he said in this one he has his coat draped over him when they're explaining things to him. He's not wearing his coat. The shoulders are draped over, so it's another similar type shot and another explanation at the end, like we got in Psycho 1. So there are subtle nods to people that are looking for them. They're not as in your face.
And Judge Smales shows up in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. This time he comes in. Spaulding. Yeah.
Spalding, bitch!
And then he tells Norman, top notch, top notch.
Top-notch kill. Right after he shovels Mrs. Spool, he comes in, top-notch.
Oh, God. Now, here's one last question. We can move on. You guys notice when Norman comes back from the police station, when all's wrapped up and he's innocent and whatever, he walks in his house and there's a shine by the piano for no reason. It's like a shimmer shine, and then it goes down.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. And I was trying to figure out the significance of that other than that just brings some peace.
I didn't notice it, but
Yeah.
that's also one of, we talked about earlier, one of the more beautiful scenes where he's playing the piano and he plays it so well. So maybe I agree with that, Christian. Maybe it's just to shine a light on his
Literally.
his sanctuary. Literally shine a light on his happy place. I like that.
That's the only thing I could think of because there was no connection to part 1 with the piano.
Yeah, I never thought about it till this time, but I thought I had to bring it up. I think they could have done without it, but whatever. I'm not complaining. I noticed it, and I thought I'd throw the question out there. So whatever.
Film the whole thing.
Yeah, knock down a whole point. No. Great movie. Everything stays the same. It's still in our Hall of Fame. Awesome. So let's move on. We got to do a triple R.
Let's do the one that I got for us.
Okay, let's get this over with.
Okay, let's get this over with. I have a feeling I'm going to be talking about this a lot more than you two, especially what we're talking about. I've got some information here. Okay, so I'll tell you how we came across this triple R. It hasn't been released yet. It's looking for distribution. It's called Camp Death 3 in 2D. And of course, there's no Camp Death 1 and 2. This was given to me by director Matt Frame, and he reached out to me through TGIF 13 and said, "Hey, Christian, big fan of the podcast. It's kept me company through many an hour doing the effects on my film. Speaking of which, I have a film right here that might be up your alley. Title is Camp Death 3 in 2D. It's a horror comedy spoof of Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D. It sounds awful and almost certainly should be. Miraculously, it's not. It took me 4 years to complete. She's my 4th feature. I'm reaching out to horror fans, specifically Friday the 13th, to put a simple question to them. Is this a film you'd watch and rewatch in your underwear on a Saturday night?
Christian, I have a question. Right,
yeah.
Just before we start, you said he listened to your podcast for hours while he did the effects for this movie.
Yeah,
it took him hours.
Here we go. Okay, I know based on your reactions and text, this was not up your alley. I told you, look at the trailer and see what you think. I'm going to tell you, usually I'm not into these movies either, but here's the thing. This movie was made for $35,000 Canadian.
That's like 1.4 million in the U.S.
35? No, that's actually like 25,000 American. Now, this is what this movie is. I got to put it out there for the listeners. You guys know because you saw it, but I got to put it out there. This is what if Airplane met Caddyshack met Friday the 13th movie. And that's what they're going with, that 79, 80, 81 kind of spoof movie, which there were a dime a dozen back then. And then, of course, we had Student Bodies, Wacko, and Club Dread. And I know there's Scary Movie and all those ones, but I'll just focus on those ones. When we did the Slasher Show, Dave, you talked a lot about Student Bodies. I like this movie more than Student Bodies. I like this movie more than Wacko. I laughed way more than I ever thought I would in this movie.
I did too.
I'm not going to lie to you. I laughed.
I was laughing the whole movie.
And that's what it's all about. Is this movie great? It's hard to say because what it sets out to do and what it is, it does very well. But it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea because it's that shit and fart jokes, overacting from every character, people just yelling for no reason, and a lot of just tomfoolery left, right, and center. So it's not going to be for everyone. I'll tell you that right now. But I had way more fun with this than I ever thought I would. That's my major introduction. I'll actually go into points, but I've hogged this now, so I want to hear what you guys think.
I want to hear B. Because
you know what? I gotta be honest. I found myself laughing a lot more than I thought I would. It's very crude humor, and it's clearly a spoof on Friday 3. And I don't want to say it's great because it's not great, but it was fun for a one-time view. I don't see myself viewing this a second time.
And Matt wants absolutely honest reviews. He says, "Give it to me straight, fellas." That's what he wanted. So
we always do.
Yeah.
And you know what? I could point out the things for me that didn't work. The things for me that didn't work, I would have loved to seen. I know 35,000 is not a big budget. I was totally joking about that comment before. So the major thing that didn't work in a film like this was the gore. And I get it. It's a comedy, but I would have liked more practical effects. I know that probably cost more money in terms of time and stuff. And also, I didn't love the musical numbers.
Oh, well, no, there's one that was good, and then there's one that wasn't so good.
The one that was good was You're Doomed.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, really?
No, that one I thought went too long. I actually liked the guy.
That was the one I liked more than
I liked the black guy in the woods. That was my favorite musical.
Me too.
Number. That was actually funny, and because it was actually well done. The reality is there was gore in this. That's the thing about Student Bodies.
Yeah, there was a little.
Wacko. Yeah. There's no gore in those movies, and that's what pisses me off. This one at least had gore. Yeah, of course they put in CG as well.
Yeah, it was over the top CG.
Yeah.
That whole beginning, I laughed, and I'm sorry, man. I'm going to spoil just a little bit. I'm not going to. I laughed when I wrote down all of the laughs in the movie for me when they said the puppet got arrested, and then the puppet escaped. And the whistleblower, I fucking was losing my mind. I thought it was hilarious. I feel like Neil from NFW is good. Would love this movie, but there are going to be a lot of other people going, Christian, what the hell are you smoking? I didn't smoke anything to watch this movie. I watched it totally sober, and I had fun with it. The thing about this type of movie is there's so many throws, so many attempts at comedy. There are a ton of misses, but there are way more hits than I ever thought there would be.
Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue being thrown around. I was laughing my ass off at the character of Mel every time he opened his mouth and said something, particularly when he's yelling at Todd. It's just everything he says is
Fuck
great.
Your world.
Fuck your world. Yeah. I like him. I'll tell you what. Here's my big thing. Now everyone knows I'm not into the goofy comedy, so take this with a grain of salt. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll tell you this: the first act, I was on board. There was a few things that I wasn't crazy about that I thought it was a little too goofy, but I was on board in the first act. The way it was set up, the beginning, and the newspaper, and the puppet thing, I accepted all that. I was fine. And the setup for the camp, and the first time you have a You're Doomed character. And, all that stuff. And the kid in the wheelchair still being hurt in the background, even when the kids pull up after he gets knocked out earlier. Little things like that were good. I was fine. Then it seems to me personally that the novelty it kind of got old after a certain amount of time. After about an hour, I did kind of had my fill. And because of that, the last act, I wasn't into it. By the time the last act came, I had my fill. I just wanted it to be over. And that's not to say that I think it was a bad film, because I know this film has its audience. And I have to respect it, being a Friday the 13th fanboy, especially in the beginning and what they were going for. And little, Alice and talking about, and because there's talk about their sleepaway stuff too. There's all kinds of slasher little nods in there. You got Angela, you got Crapsy. You got freaking crap. You got little things. Yeah, the shit with the squirrel and all that stuff, not up my alley. Like I'll tell you what, we talked about it earlier. Caddyshack. Caddyshack is like a top 5 comedy for me, maybe even number 1. My least favorite part of all of Caddyshack, believe it or not, is the Bill. I still enjoy it. Is the Bill Murray and the gopher thing? It always brought it down a little bit to me. Don't get me wrong. It's still a 10 out of 10. Just like Creepshow to me is still a 10 out of 10. But I'm not 100% crazy about Jordy Verrill. You know what I'm saying? So I accept it for what it is. But if it's a movie I love and I get tired of that chasing stuff real quick, a movie that I'm just learning, I'm not going to be into it as much. But I do like that character. It just went too far sometimes for me. That's all.
And it's not going to just be you, and that's okay. This is one of those whacked out comedy. I agree. It's too long for its own good. They should have trimmed 10 minutes out of it, because there are so many sketches that are just there for no reason.
Filler,
which is
for filler.
Yeah, You're Doomed. That took it down. When that You're Doomed came around, that was when I checked out for good. After that whole dance thing, it went on for like 5 minutes. They didn't explain why. I'm not saying I need an explanation in a movie like this. It was just like, I don't know, just like a sketch show was doing different things, and let's just.
See, I enjoyed that
Yeah.
segment better than the other guy singing in the woods.
That's funny that you say that. No, but some of
the
the stuff was good. That's what I'm saying. It was right out of an '80s movie where you're like, why the hell was that there? But when the wheelchair guy's cleaning the pool, and he's literally going back and forth with the broom like electric. And I thought that was hilarious, because it was like right out of like you gotta put one foot in front of the other, like Revenge of the Nerds, just right out of like one of those movies. That's a callback to last episode too, by the way.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna lie, I've said this thing before, and I gotta be true to myself. I thought the sound mix seemed a little off. I don't know if it was just our screener or what, but when I was watching it, it sounded like the dialogue was almost too loud, and then sometimes the music drowned it out a little bit, and then there was a couple of pops here and there. They love their loon sound effects. But I was okay with all that. All of it seemed to be okay after the first kind of setup, and I don't know if that was just the screener or not. And again, I say it, a lot of spitting, puking, farting, jokes, and some random shots that just cut to like signage to, I guess, transition scenes. So I didn't think that was needed. But the deaths are wacky, and they're gory, which I was shocked about. Because I said, if this doesn't have gore, I'll be let down.
Right, and I said that too when I was watching. I hope the kills are going to be good, and they were. And then towards the end, it got into something I didn't understand what was going on towards the end, because all of a sudden they showed the flashback of the killer's mother, but the killer's mother was a man, so I didn't get that. I didn't understand what was going on. And then and they had a weird voice. I'm like, what the fuck happened here?
That's
I don't
the
get that.
wackiness
And then
of the whole thing.
And then at the end, there's like a floating head, and it just went into this territory that
That's an ex-floating head.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
It was too much for me by that time. And when they start making out, the two with the fisheye lens, and they're drooling all over each other, it was like Trauma-esque. It got to be too much for my
example. Perfect.
It was
perfect reference.
It was
Definitely
too much for my
Trauma-esque.
taste. It was too much for my taste. I like where they were on board at the first act. If they could have stayed that way and not pushed it too far, and maybe had it. I appreciate the spoof, and I appreciate what they're spoofing, of course, and that was good. I wish they just would have kept it in check and gone at 60% instead of the 110 the rest of the film, and just cut down the goofiness a little and made it more comedy like Return of the Living Dead, Dead Shack type of stuff, which is where it fits in. Maybe you guys are going to disagree. It just went too far for me.
Did you like the Star Wars sequence?
Yeah,
I loved it.
That was clever.
That was fucking amazing, guys. That sequence, there is great stuff here. The movie, 10 minutes out, just trim 10 minutes. Matt, I know it's your baby, but if there's some way you could pull back 10 minutes, I think you'd have a winner based on what this is. That Star Wars scene defies the budget unto itself, in my opinion. I'm not trying to blow Matt.
I agree. No, I agree.
That sequence was, I couldn't believe it. And I'm telling you, way more laughs. I tell you, there's not a laugh in the movie. I would tell you this. I laughed more in that opening scene, in that camp retelling sequence. That was like a nod to Friday the 13th Part 2. That there's more jokes in that sequence alone than some comedies. And I'm trying to be as realistic as possible here. And that Star Wars scene, Brandon, that you said.
Yeah.
Coming in my pants. It was great. It was great. And the jokes landed there. But I am a realist as well. And yes, the trauma stuff and some of the other things just went a little too far. I agree. And
it's not my cup of tea at all. So you can, and I'm not coming down hard, but people that are listeners of the show know me. So, if the guy's listening, what's his name, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay. That's just my personal taste. I know that there's an audience for this, just like there's an audience for freaking Poultrygeist, and that's not me. So I'm not shitting on anything. I'm of course giving my honest opinion. It's just a little too trauma-esque for me, a little too overboard with certain things. I wish it was pulled back. If it was my film, it would have been comedy. This would have been pulled back. I bet I probably would have shaved about 15 minutes. But that's me. But overall, I would still recommend it to people that are listening to this show that know everything we've said so far, and they know what they're getting into. If you think you're going to like it, if you're into that type of film, then there's no reason you wouldn't like this, because it's well made. And I'll say this, the sound design and the use of music is very good. Yeah, it is. I love the music in this movie, all throughout.
I'm trying not to spoil shit, but I also talk a little bit about other things. The cop character that gets introduced a little bit later on, thought he was hilarious. The guy that says, I look good in beige. He says, dead Barry, 50-50 chance he's going to make it. And it cuts back to dead Barry, and there's like an eagle in his head.
That was funny.
I'm a straight shooter, and I'm going to shoot it straight in your face.
Yeah.
I like Verda eating the Charleston Chew. I thought that scene was hilarious.
See, that was my issue. That's another thing I don't like. When the thing at the end, when it's all over the place and on the girl's face,
I don't know
I
why
couldn't even watch it. I had to turn away.
I was laughing my ass off at how ridiculous it went. It went on for way too long, but I was laughing so hard. I thought she was hilarious.
The movie made me laugh more than a lot of comedies, guys. This is not my cup of tea either. To that extreme, Dave. To the extreme. I do like trauma, but again, I'm not a huge trauma fan. I like certain trauma movies. And when it went to the almost the Two Girls, One Cup sequence there for a second, almost with the fisheye lens look, I was like, I kind of was like, okay, enough's enough. And like I said, it's too long for its own good. Enough great characters. The Irish guy, the cop, the one killed.
Well, that potato guy?
Please don't.
Yeah,
I wish they could have taken the potato guy completely out of the film. I wish they would have taken both fisheye scenes completely out of the film, and it probably would have boosted the film a point for me.
Well, definitely take the potato guy out. It didn't make me laugh.
No, it was too much. It was too much for me.
I did laugh at one of the scenes with the potato. I'm not gonna lie. And I'll just say one other thing. Again, I'm going to keep this very cryptic and vague. One death. Please don't. No, don't. Allow me. And again, there's no context to it, but it's essentially that the killer's not doing the killing properly.
Oh yeah, I didn't get that. Is that what was going on?
Yeah.
So forget it. I won't spoil it.
That's it. So I thought that was kind of ingenious as well. And you know what? I hope you find some distribution for this. And I'm giving it a half-head explosion.
I'm giving it a mild rumble, and there is an audience for it. So I hope it does find distribution, and there you have it.
Yeah, there's definitely an audience for this, but I'm also at a mild rumble.
All right. You guys are higher than I thought. I thought actually you thought you're going to just say it was like a total fail or whatnot.
No.
I said, you know what you're getting yourself into here, and there is some great comedy that it hits.
I'm surprised Dave came in at a mild rumble, because I'll tell you what, it's not my cup of tea either, but I couldn't knock it down below an average film because, like you said, Christian, I I was laughing way more than I normally do at comedies. Like, it was so stupid, but I was laughing.
Yeah.
Him in the wheelchair trying to roll up the stairs. I like every little stupid thing. Like, I'm just laughing my ass off. I'm like, this is so ridiculous. It's so funny. Yeah, I mean, but I definitely felt it would work better if it was a little shorter.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I think we're all in agreement there. And again, Matt, I know it's hard. I couldn't even tell you what to cut out. It's your baby, but that's the thing.
It's even harder because comedy is so subjective, even more so than anything else.
Yeah. And what we might think it needs to come out might be his favorite scene, or someone else absolutely loves it. So
I say cut Potato Guy, but somebody might love Potato Guy.
Potato Guy has a couple good bits.
You know what? I'm surprised. Brandon, you know what this reminds me of a little bit? The movie that we shit on last year, but the comedy in this one worked better, and other stuff, because it's Friday the 13th related, it's more relatable, but it was kind of like Greasy Strangler type shit. And I can't understand why people loved that movie as much as they did. Again, that's not my type of humor, but other people like it. So it's like a Greasy Strangler type film to me.
You know what? I felt like this one, the gross out scenes were a little bit more pulled back than Greasy Strangler. I felt like the fisheye scenes didn't really gross me out. You could tell, like, when Mel has the poop in his mouth, you could tell it's a Tootsie Roll. Like, it's so easy to tell it's a Tootsie Roll.
Of course.
So for me, I hated Greasy Strangler. I don't like over-the-top gross-out shit, and like that got really nasty.
Not even just the gross-out, but the jokes. Like that one joke that everyone was like, Porto, over and over and over again, and we thought, okay, it was funny.
Potato.
Not 8 times. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that shit. The stuff that happened in this film, that's what I'm saying. It reminded me of some of that type of comedy that some people might really love. Because some people love the Greasy Strangler, and we did not. That's all I'm saying.
That's why we're saying there's definitely an audience for this. I think I'm probably, if I was to watch the Greasy Strangler again, I'd probably come down even lower on my rating.
I never want to see it again.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't really want to watch it again either.
You know.
And I shouldn't say I wouldn't watch this again. I really shouldn't, because I'm not sure about that.
Tell you what, if the three of us hung out, I'd watch it with you guys.
That's a perfect. Yeah. That's a perfect way of putting it.
It's a party movie.
This is not a film I'm not going to watch this alone again.
Right, exactly.
Well, Matt, I wish you good luck with it. I think you will find an audience.
Best of luck. Thank you for the screener, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be right back. And we're back. Psycho 3.
In 2D.
Psycho 3.
That's right.
Yeah, good one. All right, from 1986, Psycho 3, Norman Bates falls in love with a fallen nun who stays at the Bates Motel alongside a drifter and a curious reporter. Meanwhile, Mother is still watching. This one is written by Charles Edward Pogue and directed by Anthony Perkins.
Oh, man. Well, we did talk about this one. I'll preface this. I know I said it a bit earlier, but we did talk about this one on the 86 show when we were on the 22 Shots mashup episode, and I think we all came in high. It was all in our top 10 lists.
It was.
It's a great sequel. On that show, I made a lot of mention of, I loved it, but I wish Anthony Perkins didn't overact. Almost he was too focused on his directing that he let the Norman character be a little overacting. I did not find it this
You know
time.
What? On that show?
Yeah.
Me neither, see? Isn't that weird?
On that show, I was defending his acting, saying I didn't see it as overacting. I was on the 86 show, and now it's not that it's overacting, but I definitely see a quality slip from part 2.
Hilarious.
That's
so you went the other way. So yeah, no.
But it's weird watching them. I've never sat down and watched them all back to back to back like this.
See, I have a few times, and I will tell you this. It's funny that though that Christian and I both 100% had the same take that he was doing it too much, and it was overacting and everything else, and that's what brought it down a bit. There was a mild complaint, and you defended it, and now this time around you noticed it, and it didn't bother us as much. No. However, one thing bothered me, and I noticed every time. It's to the point now, because I've seen this movie several times, and I am a fan of it, but it's to the point now where I really realize what the weakness of this film is for me. Truly, there's two things. One, the overabundance of callbacks. It's overdone. They play that hand a bit too strong, and I wish they didn't. And that's a minor complaint. But the big complaint for me is I am just not into the female lead.
Yes, that's my major complaint. I do not only I don't want to say I'm not into her.
She bores
but
me.
I don't buy the relationship that builds between Norman and what's her name, Maureen.
Their relationship bores me. I want
Yeah.
to cut out all the romance shit between him and her. As much as I love Norman and would like to see him have a normal relationship, and I get that, I wish it was with a more interesting person. Something about that actress, that character, whatever it is, just does not appeal
I
to
think
me.
it works so well with the Mary character that here it just feels flat and forced, even though he seems to fall more in love with Maureen than he ever did with Mary.
If Meg Tilly played Mary, or pardon me, if Meg Tilly just happened to play Maureen, maybe that would change everything. I don't know.
It's crazy that you're just saying that. I've always found her to be, I don't want to say miscast, because she's not like she's a bad actress, but there is something there. Like, I like the character in the sense of the fallen nun, the whole setup for it. I love that, but yeah, there's something about her that's not intriguing. And it's horrible to say, but
I know, but you're just being honest.
Yeah, and I think that is at the slight detriment of the movie. It should be a major detriment, but I actually still get major enjoyment from this film. And in fact, I think it went up a slight notch from my last review on the 86 show. And it's a fast-paced movie, and I do like how they introduce her, and it's not just the callbacks to Psycho, but to Hitchcock, because you get some Vertigo kind of callbacks in the clock
in
tower.
the bell tower.
In fact, I think it looks like when she's walking away from it, I swear it's the clock tower from Vertigo, but I could be mistaken. Most likely I am, but it could be. But that's how much of a callback to Vertigo I thought it was. I hear you, Dave, and it may be a little too much. But I think that was Anthony, I like him on a first name basis. But,
hey, Tony.
Yeah.
Tony P.
Yeah. I think that was TP's. No,
TP.
I think that was just his way of showing respect to the source material. And to the
Yeah, I know. I get that. It just seemed, it was like they were trying too hard. It was like, yeah, we get it now. Okay, this and that and this. It was too much. Even the fact she's going to have a fucking MC on her freaking luggage. Who does that in 1986?
It felt like that was the only reason they really needed her character in the first place, was to see the MC to kind of set him off a little bit. Because I think the showdown between him and Duke is much more interesting.
Oh yeah, dude. Yes.
I love Duke.
Those are necessary callbacks. That's what makes this movie rich. I mean, that's cool. The MC's needed. I think that was cool. I'm just not necessarily intrigued by her personally, but I like that. That's the script. That's the story.
So you think it's just a casting thing?
Yeah. It doesn't, like, again, I'm not.
She's not bad. She's not bad.
Yeah.
But maybe you wanted to see the character played differently, because I kind of feel I wanted it played a little differently.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't have to be a nun. Although I do love how they use the nun, the whole religious thing to set up Mother saving her when she commits when she tries to commit suicide.
That sequence is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so well done, and it was. And I love how they take the story element of 2 and kind of twist that and say, "Oh no, that spool chick was just a nut."
Yes,
that spool thing is the best part of the film. The mystery of what's going on with Spool, and when they uncover it. Because another character I'm not over the moon for is, what's her name? The dark-haired reporter.
Venable, yeah.
I'm not over the moon for her either, but I do like what she does when it comes to Spool and uncovering of the mystery and finding out and righting the wrong of the end of part 2 with, Norman's mother not really being the mother, which a lot of people consider that a great wrong. I could take it or leave it, but I'm kind of glad they did that. And Perkins' direction is great, so I can't say anything about that. But I guess a little too on the nose would be the term. It was just mother, blood. He even did the lines the same again.
That's the biggest misstep, is putting that line in. They could have left that one out. Like, when she falls down the stairs, Ella Abergus,
I'm okay with that.
That's a great callback.
I
But
agree.
the blood is a little too much. I agree with that.
He wanted this shot in black and white, which
Yes.
probably would have made you guys even drop your ratings lower, because then it would have just been even more like the original.
Well, I respect it for that. I get that. Because remember, I was wowed at the beginning of part 2, how it's black and white with the Universal sign for tribute. That's fine. I would have knocked it down because of this, because the way he uses the colors in this film with the lighting Argento Bava was fucking very good. So that would be lacking from the film. But also, if it was black and white, that could have also added to the charm. So I don't know if that would have affected my rating. Like I said, what does affect my rating is just a little too on the nose with the callbacks. It was just, I don't know. I liked little things, the paper bag, and they even hold the camera shot with candy corn in his hand, so you see that it's candy corn again. It's just pull back the reins.
I think
25% of it.
I think that was him going, this guy's fucking offering me candy corn. I know what you're saying. You're looking at it like, okay, we got it. It's candy corn. I think that was Duke going, I'm fucking getting candy corn? This is what this guy's offering me, candy corn? I think that's why he's like, what the fuck is this? But I see what you mean, because I thought the same thing at first, but then I took it as, oh no, that's him going, fucking, really?
It's just nice to see another grown man who eats candy corn, because I fucking love candy corn.
People hate candy corn.
Most people hate it. I love
fucking
it. So
ridiculous.
whenever I see Norman eating, I'm like, that's great.
Are those kids? Are those supposed to be high schoolers or college kids?
That guy looked 47 years old.
Because whether they're high
it's
schoolers or
alumni.
college kids, they're alumni. Because they're like, our team's beating your
that.
team. I know. I swear they said it was supposed to be
I thought it was
a game night between two rivaling schools.
Yeah,
It
Fayetteville and
is.
Central.
But this is alumni. When the guy was laughing, talking to the girl, she said, I was never a cheerleader. I was a baton girl. So they're talking about I was. This is the past.
Okay,
They're
that makes way more sense now.
majorette.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. This is like 10-year graduates coming back for the big game. Like we have a big game out here. It's like one of the longest rivalries in the
Good
history of high
catch,
school.
because I'm with C. I thought they were like supposed to be high school or college kids. I'm like, these people have not. They've had a rough go of it.
What's in the water?
But all the stuff kills, the slashing. See, I'll say this. I could see why Norman is acting that way and eating the candy out of the bag again and doing this because he's back to Norman from part one. We know in this film that he's back to killing. There's no mystery of part two.
Yeah, well, this is only a month after part two, so the events at the end of part two have completely set him off. So all his motives in this completely make sense.
Yep.
100.
So I can forgive it for that because it would make sense he'd go back to all his old habits. And he does, and that's fine. So, again, it's just too many callbacks, and that's it. That's my major complaint. That, and I'm not into the love affair in that particular character. Everything else, I'm on board with. Duke and what's going on with the story, and the downright slashing, the freaking.
Well, this is the slasher moon of the series, the most slasher film of the series.
Yes, it is.
Oh, and the black comedy is. Don't get me wrong. There's comedic elements in two. This one, I think, upped it a little bit. It's not camp.
No.
It's not what we just talked about, but it's more of a return to the original in the sense of the black comedies raised up a little bit as well.
Yes.
The slashing of Friday 5 alumni.
Yes.
Yeah,
in
Red.
the phone
Red.
booth. In the phone booth is great. I think again, did they use the sound effects in this one as well? The or something like that, or was this?
I don't remember.
I know. I just
That's
watched the damn thing and I can't remember.
I was more disturbed by what he was doing with those lamps.
Oh, I know.
I'm not saying I'm a freak or anything, but I've seen some shit and I've never seen that. I'm like, what's he doing?
I just don't know how you set that up with a woman you just met. Like, if you just picked up a chick at the bar and took her back to the hotel to freaking bang her, whatever, I don't see that being a situation where you're going to sit in a chair, tell her to strip, and you're going to shine 2 lamps in front of you as you're buck naked. It doesn't usually work that way. Usually when it's a one-night deal, there's no time to set shit like that up. You just
Duke's
go
a
and do your
pimp,
thing.
man. Duke's a pimp.
Duke is a pimp. Right? I mean, he gets her good. And freaking...
Watch the guitar.
Yep. Watch the guitar. How about Robin, though, man? I mean, I thought she looked good. I'm just glad that she didn't, Duke didn't come up and say, I want to make him up.
Well, she has more screen time, it seems, in this, and she actually dies it's almost Argento-esque.
That's the shower scene.
Well, and that's what, I mean, it's a copy of the shower scene in the phone booth. And again, the comedy comes from that, the operator popping up on the phone.
He's even washing the phone booth the next day and the water's dripping down.
Yeah.
I'll shower. But I got to ask one question. In this movie, when we learn the truth about Mrs. Spool, doesn't Venable also say that Mrs. Spool killed Norman's father?
They allude to it. I think that's what they allude to. That she killed. No, I think they actually. You're right.
They say it. They came out and say it.
They straight up say it. Yeah.
Okay, because they ignore that in part 4, which we'll get to. But
yeah.
But that was one thing that bothered me. So I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Yeah, they said she was a nut job, and I guess it was supposed to be her child, and that's why. So she stole the child and killed.
Yeah, because her sister wound up stealing her husband, is what she's saying.
Yeah. But I love the play on that. I thought that was a great way to turn it around, because I think, maybe people would have been like, what the fuck's with the spool thing? So they expand on it.
It's a great continuation, great expansion, and great continuity between all these films.
Absolutely, especially 2 and 3, because you get the people to come back. You get the sheriff to come back,
the chef and the waitress from the diner.
Yes.
They go back to the diner.
We didn't even talk about that waitress. She was so funny in part 2.
Yeah, she's been in over 100 things, I believe.
She's a big star. Yeah, but she has a very small role in this. But in part 2, when she says, "Do you work here? Can I get my order then?"
Yeah.
I laugh every time she does it. But in this one, Duke has some classic lines. Stupid bitch, you could have been coming instead of going.
Yes, I love that.
I love when he walks into the parlor and he says, "Local branch of the Audubon Society?"
Right. Yeah, he's good. How about the little black comedy moment when he's like, "God, I don't plan on sticking around very long," and Norman's like, "No one ever does."
Yeah.
Little things like that. Shit like that I'm fine with. But him once again saying the same fucking line, repeating the exact same line that he does multiple times in part 1, a little much, It never
bothered me that much, because at least, they're callbacks to great films.
They are callbacks to great films. I hear you.
I hear what you're saying.
Sometimes it kind of cheapens. We all go a little mad sometimes to have it come up again in part 3. I don't know. It just... Maybe I'm being too hard on it because of my love for the first film. I just want it to stay. I want for it to remain there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I've never really thought about it, but I'm hearing you guys talk about it a lot tonight, and I'm just not really sure how I feel about the many callbacks. I guess I'm kind of indifferent to it, I guess, at this point.
That's fine. I mean, maybe I'm being too hard on it because especially when you watch it after 2 did it so well.
Yeah.
It's like I said, they're trying a little too hard. It was a little too on the nose. Did the beginning of this film remind you guys at all of Poltergeist 2?
Yes. It's the same type of credits. It's it's that
and the music and they're in the desert.
Yeah, the desert in the title with almost like the I don't know what they call it in like the graphic art design where it's black shaded or something like that. That's because it's such a weird introduction for Psycho.
Yeah, it didn't feel Psycho.
Totally, yeah.
But
isn't that weird though?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you picked up Poltergeist 2 like I did, because that's what it reminded me. Because that's something that always threw me off about the beginning of Poltergeist 2. I was like, this is interesting. This is different, and the font, and they did the same thing here. Again, I'm not shitting on the film, but I did go down a little bit from my last view.
Yeah, this is the one I went down a little bit too. Also, so you were completely opposite, Christian, on your guess.
And it's funny because I was totally wrong, and I actually came up ever so slightly. So again, it was just it's such a great. I thought it was such a great continuation. I don't feel like the things are forced. I love when the reporter goes to Mrs. Spool's apartment and finds out that the number for the hotel's written pretty much everywhere, and the more you learn about her. And the only thing is, it's that same picture of Mrs. Spool everywhere. She's got that same picture on her nightstand as the picture missing in the paper and the picture everywhere else. It's that same shot of her, which I think is probably her headshot for acting.
It's her IMDb profile.
Yeah.
She even said in part 2, IMDb.
I will tell you that it has also one of the scariest moments. Although my daughter laughed because my oldest daughter came in and thought it was very funny. I think it's very unsettling. I watched it 3-4 times over. I rewound it to watch it. And it's like, why can't you leave my poor Norman alone? At the end, when he's holding the knife in the wig, it just unsettles me. And I think it's absolute scary brilliance. My daughter was laughing.
I used to laugh. The first couple of times I saw it, I thought it was a little goofy. And now I think it is spooky. So,
Yeah, I didn't laugh at that scene. I just feel bad at that. I just feel bad at that point because I want Norman to be okay.
right, and you do feel for him. And there's a couple scenes where you see him, and he almost seems normal. And then there's other scenes where he seems sad. And there's that one shot when he's just sitting down. You know what I'm talking about? There's that one shot, and you can see like the torment, and he's just sitting there.
His facial expressions throughout the series are phenomenal in saying so much. That maybe your point of repeating lines doesn't even need to be said at times. You just get a close up of his expression and you know what he's thinking.
Well, I love how you're introduced to him in this with the birds.
Yeah.
And then the shadow walks in and then he picks them up. And then we get introduced to taxidermy, which another brilliant piece of black comedy is that he's taking the whatever it is that he stuffs them with.
Oh, the
with
peanut
butter. And then well, no, like the stuffing shit, and then he takes a spoonful of peanut butter and eats it.
Yeah.
and that's when he then envisions the hand, that he's stitching up the hand, and then there's a little bit of a overreaction, or what I said was an overreaction the first time, or not the last time. It didn't bother me. Didn't bother me at all. Like there's a few of those that he does, and this time they just didn't affect me, as I said earlier.
You know what it is? He didn't do that in 2. He didn't do the stuttering and all that other shit, and it all came back here. Like, for no reason. And when he stuttered in part 1, it's because he was stammering and he was nervous because he was being confronted. While in Psycho 3, he was doing it for no particular reason.
Didn't he stutter in 2 with the cutlery line?
That was a stammer in the sense of like him censoring himself, almost like the washroom. He can't say washroom, right? That's a carryover from the original one. I think there he knew there was a knife, and he's like, yeah, cutlery, because it's related to a knife, one instrument, which is part of the trauma, right? So,
that's what I'm saying. It works there. Where in 3, he's an overabundance. And again, I'm not going to nitpick on it, but it's just something that takes place in this film. The Norman character is still great. He's still a character that I gravitate to. So if you put Anthony Perkins in that role on film, and the film's halfway decent, I'm going to be happy. And this film is more than halfway decent. There's just a couple small things that I've picked apart, but I do enjoy it, just not on the level of part 2. That's all.
Yeah, the main issue is the Maureen character.
That definitely hurts. The story's not as good as part 2.
No.
You know what I mean? It's just not as good. It's enjoyable.
It doesn't come together quite as well as it did in 2. I didn't, even when Maureen leaves, then they have the whole scenes with her and Father Brian, and I didn't need that.
And
I agree.
Is that Cupid that she gets impaled on?
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Cupid. Yeah, she gets killed by love.
Stupid, naive girl.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
I'm reading now that Jeff Fahey, they wanted him to be nude in the shot, and he was too uncomfortable with it. That's why they let him cover himself up with the lamps.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
He's gonna have his schlong hanging out in an R-rated movie.
Maybe they wanted him in his tighty whities or something. And he was just uncomfortable. He just wanted to be covered. I don't know. It makes no sense because he looks completely nude.
Well, the movie's sleazy enough. I can't imagine him not. I think they did want him naked. Like the movie is like it's a different level of comparatively to anything else in the series.
It went Friday the 13th in this one.
It went Friday the 13th 5 again with Robin.
Hey, she did her own stunt. They wanted to use a stunt woman when he throws her out the room, but she wanted to do that.
Nice.
And she did that. And even the other girl who gets her throat slit, she was really in that icebox.
Great scene.
Oh.
I don't know if you're joking about that or not, but
no, this is true.
That's true. Okay.
I've read all this. Yeah.
That's a great scene with the sheriff with the bloody ice.
No, they really killed her, Dave.
Man.
They really killed her.
Yeah, it's a snuff. Huh?
I did say one of my little other nitpicks, but I'm willing to forgive it because it's just for that ending. Is the storage of Mother's arm in the old suit pocket?
Yeah. Yeah.
How he's in the car driving away and he just sort of pulls it out to caress it. Like, where did he store this arm?
But it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why would he caress that arm? That's not his mother, and he knows it's not his mother.
I know.
He just found out that this is full of shit.
Yeah.
So if anything, he should have nothing to do with that arm.
It would have been better if he had Maureen's head and he was stroking her hair. Good Maureen.
Or he was giving himself head. Like
Yeah,
in
giving himself head. Yeah,
like in
reanimate
what's that
yourself.
movie? High Tension. Hot Tension, excuse me.
There you go. That's in the director's cut that we'll never end up seeing.
I'll tell you what I love about this film: the whole Duke and mother part. That is brilliant, and how it works out. How he's bugging out because the cops come in the house like, "You have no right to go. Come on, well, we got the search warrant." And they run up by the bedroom. You think Norman's fucked, and you go up there, and mother's not there. And like, what the hell happened? And
Mother's
then later
in cabin
on,
12. I'm in cabin 12.
Oh.
Duke is he's got some great, even writing that note, I'm in cabin 12, mother, and signs it mother.
That was great, and Woody Woodpecker and all that shit. That was.
Yeah.
I love that whole sequence. Oh man.
Did you like that added watch the guitar even as he's being knocked out? Because I did. I like that.
Oh,
Yeah, I could.
That's the comedy. That's
but
I
needed that.
It's still, it's not like too waka waka. It's still within the realm of reality.
And you know what? Again, with the beginning of things being too on the nose, the whole thing about the girl, Maureen, you must have been an angel that fell from heaven. He kept hammering home the fact about religion and angels, and she just happened to be an estranged nun. You know what I mean? It was one line would have been nice, but he had like 3 lines that pertained to her.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Was a little, just pull it back a little bit, Anthony. That would have been fine with me. But
aren't nuns supposed to be like forgiving people? Because I mean, once that nun falls at the beginning, which was clearly an accident, the other one's immediately like, "You're gonna burn in hell." Like
that's
wow.
how they are. Have you? Oh, you're Jewish. Forget it. I was gonna say you haven't been to freaking catechism and you haven't heard the horror stories of that I've heard about my parents, how in the schools they went to and how the way the nuns treated them. So that's par for the course for as far as I've always heard. Oh yeah, fuck, they used to fucking beat up my parents, the nuns.
Well, Anthony Perkins didn't write the script though, so that's the other thing. Like, I mean, he directed it, but he didn't write it. It was written by Charles Edward Pogue.
But who knows if he threw certain things in? You know what I mean? I want to send the director. I want to say we all go a little mad sometimes. Or, you know what I mean?
He might have improv some of his lines.
He might have improv, and he might have directed the actors to say certain things. Who knows? We'll never know. I mean, what are you gonna know? Unless I didn't watch the Psycho Legacy this time around, and I wish I did. Time wasn't, permitting.
When I say my rating came down on this, I'm literally talking like a 0.25, maybe a 0.5 max. It's not a drastic change. I still enjoy this movie tremendously.
And mine went up just a 0.25. I'm at 8.25.
Yeah, and see, I went from an 8 to like a 7.75.
Okay, and I went from an 8.5 to an 8.
Yeah, so we're all still there in that 8 range. It's still a great sequel. When you start to watch them back to back, especially watching it right after 2, you notice it.
But it's funny. It's different, but I actually thought it was a fast-paced follow-up, so that my enjoyment level was heightened.
Well, it's much shorter than part 2. I think this one comes in at like an hour and a half max, and part 2 was an hour and 50, so this one definitely does move quicker. Yeah,
I'll give you that. It does move quicker, but we enjoy it. That's all there is to it. It's a solid another solid sequel, and we keep on going,
And we keep on going.
And we keep on trucking. How about Duke? How come Duke looked like he was tweaking? Like remember when he shows up there and Duke's all sweating and acting really weird? Why was he acting that way all of a sudden?
I think he was on drug
he was clearly on something,
coke or something like that. Yeah,
he looked like he was, but they never alluded to it. They never mentioned drugs or showed, or you know what I mean. There was nothing in his character, outside of just because he's kind of
totally fucked up because he had the sweat going and he was all he was. No, I thought Norman does look. It's not the one where I know he looks in the ashtray in another one. And
that's part 2. What's that? And he's like, I would guess drugs.
He doesn't. They never show any drugs in this one. But the fact that Duke is charging extra money for the rooms to steal some of the money. He's going out to the bars. You just assume that he's buying drugs. He's talking about being a rock and roll star in L.A. It just, it might be a stereotype, but they're just lumping that all in with his lifestyle and the type of character he is.
Yeah, I guess. I just found it weird this time. I was like, what the fuck? The dude looks like he's tweaking straight up.
Yeah, he was sweaty.
Pretty gross.
That's a sweaty Duke.
A sweaty Duke. I had a dog named Duke once. Hated the mutt.
That's a great line. She was feisty. She was feisty. I didn't mind her.
Right. Yeah. She was okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on, shall we? Although, how about one more thing? How about Robin? What a dirty birdie. She wanted to have a threesome with freaking Duke and Norman.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, imagine that.
That's not her name in this one, is it?
No, they call her. It's just Red, I think. I
Yeah.
think she's credited as Red.
Okay, because Robin's her name from Friday 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll always be Robin to us. Who knows? What do we know? We picked her up in a
She's Red
bar.
Robin.
Red Robin.
Wow, Red Robin. Red Robin.
And perfect, because that leads right into a Red Robin review.
Nice. Round Robin.
Christian, you've become like me this episode.
Oh, shit, I'm not funny?
Yeah, that's exactly. Usually I'm doing bad jokes. It's you tonight. That's good. I needed a night off.
Let's move on. We're triple R'ing. Who is this? Dustin
Patreon.
Baker?
Yeah.
Curse of the Fly.
The Fly from 1965. Motorist Martin Delambre attempts to keep evidence of his family's bizarre experiments in teleportation hidden from his wife, who is hiding secrets of her own.
Well, this was a first-time watch for me. Thank you, Dustin.
I think.
That sounds sarcastic.
It was a weird movie. I've got to be honest with you. Thank you, YouTube, first and foremost, because that was where I found it. I couldn't find it anywhere else. I watched it on there. This is a movie that you have to have grown up with, I think, because it's fairly dull. I would say that what Dustin wrote us in his recommendation for us to tackle it as a triple R is what sets it apart. But I don't know if it's enough to elevate it above just sort of average, merely average. And that is the downbeat ending. But to get there, it's just a lot of back and forth dialogue between people in Britain versus people in Canada.
I forgot where the hell it was. All I know is the guy didn't have a passport, so that was a big issue. So he had to freaking.
So he had to teleport.
That was great because he teleported to Canada. He couldn't get out of Canada.
Yeah,
or he was trying to get back to Canada.
Right. Yeah.
He was in London. That was great. Did you?
It's a cool story. I mean, the third
cool
generation, the third generation of the original guy that did the thing, and it's kind of interesting that he had children that were afflicted because of what happened to him in his travel with being trapped with the fly. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I like the whole story with the ailment that they're affected by characteristics of the fly, and I actually like the characters a lot. I think they're sympathetic in a way, even though they're our protagonist, Martin and his father, and even his brother. There are 3 protagonists, yet they're very relatable. In fact, you have a hard time picking protagonists because you think even Patricia might be bad because she escapes from the asylum at the beginning, but even she's a sympathetic character that we come to learn had a mental breakdown.
I guess you're bang on, but I just did not care. And at the end of the day, that's what it was all about.
I like the use of the music. I thought it was very, very upbeat and love story at the beginning, and then it sort of it devolves into like very villainous like music. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like the music changes with the mood of the film really well.
You know what it is for me in old time movies like this? And what year is this? 60s?
65.
It feels like 55.
It does. It does.
Agreed. That's an issue that I have with classic horror movies. One of the issues that I have is that all the music always sounds the same to me. It's like the scores are always the same.
Look, I couldn't hum the music to this if you asked me to, even if I could hum. But I just remember writing down and thinking to myself that it's used well at the right moments. That it fits the mood of the scene, and slowly as the story kind of deteriorates. And Christian was bang on with that downbeat ending. Because another one where I'm rooting for everything to be okay. I wanted Martin to find a way to make this okay without having to kill human test subjects, but they couldn't.
Yeah, I like that whole angle about is the girl crazy or is she not? And that's one thing I don't understand. Maybe I missed something. We clearly see this girl escaping an asylum in the opening minutes, right? And kind of risque for those days, and freaking bra and panties. Like, hey, what's this? And She gets out there, and then the people, and then she hooks up, of course, another trope of older movies. People fucking fall in love instantly. You'll always hear me complain about that with classic horror.
He
That's why
proposed marriage like 3 hours later.
dude, it always happens. That's why I don't get into the Universal monster movies and all that. They all have these tropes that just don't work on me. And I know people get mad at me. Why don't you like those old movies? It's like action films with me. It's too tropey, and it's just, I don't know. But that always seems to happen, and that happens here. Then they get back to the place, and then the people come later, and they say, hey, she escaped the asylum. This girl's crazy. Yet she doesn't show any signs of being crazy, and we don't know why they're crazy because we don't even get the explanation on screen. We just hear an introduction of the people that say something's wrong with her, unless I missed something.
You did miss something. She was a concert pianist who had a breakdown before a big concert.
Okay, and that means that because she had a nervous breakdown, they bring her to an asylum and that she's a danger to mankind?
Well, that's the thing. They make it out like she's a danger, but she's actually they reference that she was doing well in her rehabilitation, and it doesn't really become much of an issue after Martin says, we're married now, I'm responsible, she's staying here, because then it plays out like, okay, she is kind of cured, and they just use it as a way of her internalizing, am I going crazy with everything I'm seeing, or is something more sinister at play? So in that way, it's clever.
I agree. I like that's what I'm saying. That's how I got on that kick. I was like, I like is she crazy or is she not in her head? I do get that. I just didn't quite get the setup of her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it had to do with her having a mental breakdown because of the pressure of being a concert pianist.
Okay, and that was all cool, and the people behind the three doors and her discovering that and everything else. I was on board. Again, I watched this at 1.5 speed because it's YouTube, and that's how I watch films on YouTube. So it was definitely
it's a great feature of YouTube. I use it too, and that's not to say I don't like movies. I use the 1.25 on YouTube, but I use it for pretty much everything.
An older movie like this, absolutely, I'll watch at double speed. It's just the way it is because they do move slow for me. It's always been that way, and some of the dialogue is just unnecessary. So if I happen to miss something, then I miss it. But
older films like this are definitely more dialogue driven. These old Hollywood type films that they have that old Hollywood type feel.
Yep.
This doesn't have an old Hollywood type feel at all, but it does have.
It has an old Hollywood type look to it. This looks like a 1940s Hollywood type film. I'm not saying it has like a
okay. If you wanted, I guess that's it. If you're taking a 1965 movie, that looks like a classic old.
That's what I'm saying.
Then I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Again, the most intriguing element of this is the fact that back in '65 they decided, you know what, we're going to do part 3, and it's not going to be about the fly. That part you kind of have to give it a little bit of credit for. I just couldn't get on board. I guess I wasn't in the mood to watch an old film when I put this on. So
the effects were cool though. When the two men get put in the transport and then they become that combo, I thought that was gonna freak Dave out a lot.
Dude,
I was worried for you.
It was freaky. That was the most memorable. That's what I took from this thing. That freaking weird looking crazy thing that shows up in the transporter, all freaking gross looking. Oh yeah,
because this is a body horror film, so
right.
I don't like that.
Dude, that was a little rough. But how come they alluded to the oldest guy, the father, having something on his back from going back and forth? And is it me or did that not come up again? Because remember his other sister, when someone's giving him the business about it, he goes, "You say you're unharmed, look at your back," and this and that, and he didn't want to keep transporting. Is it me or did nothing else happen to that guy?
Yeah, you know what? They never really brought that back. I was thinking the same thing. I didn't know if that was an effect of, because he's the son. He's the second generation. Yeah, so he's the second generation. I don't know if that's a side effect he's suffering or if it was something was happening because of too many transportations.
It was from, I think it was from the transportation, because why would his son point it out? Well, although the one son was unaffected, they said, didn't have to take the serum, but the father and the other son did. They had to take serum to prevent
rapid aging.
Rapid aging, yeah, because they're descendants of the fly guy.
And flies live for like an hour.
Right, yeah. So that's Vincent Price's son, the old man.
I believe so. You know what? I don't remember the original before. I just went right into this one. So, right. But man, it seems like I enjoyed it more than most.
Well, I enjoyed it enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was okay with it, and I liked the way it ended. And of course, again, I watched it on 1.5 speed. So I went into it freaking saying, I'm going to watch this on 1.5 speed. And as far as being in the mood to watch an old-time movie, I'm never in a mood to watch them. So when I have to watch it for a show like this, I'm going to watch it on 1.5, unless I find that I can't keep up. If if I'm into the plot, I don't know what's going on, and I'm missing things, and they're talking too fast. Hey, what's going on here? Because in old movies, sometimes they talk real fast.
They
hey,
do,
kid,
yeah.
what are you doing over there? And put that on double speed. Sometimes you can't keep up. So I don't trust the subtitles on YouTube because they're like stock subtitles by somebody. Not stock, but
the subtitles on YouTube are sometimes they look like they're done by a crazy person.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know how they do it. So if I can't keep up, then I would lower it. But that's how I tend to watch films like that.
Yeah.
But I was okay with the movie. I guess average, or a little better than average. But it's just I was okay with it.
The ending I thought was great, very downbeat. What happens with the father, man, that's really unsettling. And then of course Martin, because I was really hoping throughout the story, even though I know you say it's rushed, and they always do that in the old movies. You're right, but I was hoping that Martin and Pat were going to be okay, and the ending was just really just downbeat for everyone.
Yes, it was. That's what we like, right?
Best part of the movie. I wasn't really expecting that. You know what? I said it didn't really elevate it above average, but maybe that having that in that time frame and being that much different from the rest of the series, maybe that does just give it a notch above. But I'm not rushing back to see it again.
Neither am I. I'm not disappointed that I watched it either.
I'm glad I saw it. I've seen the original. This was part 3, you said?
Yeah.
Yep, because there's The Fly and there's Son of the Fly, and this is Curse.
Okay, see, I've never seen
Return of the
Son
Fly.
of the
Return of the
I've never.
Oh, what I say, Son of the Fly? I'm sorry, Return of the Fly.
Hey, I believed you that there was a Son of the Fly.
Yeah.
The father was the Son of the Fly.
This is true. I'll tell you what. Here's what's funny. Or not even funny. The guy has a great line, the father in this movie, and he says, "What's her name is bugging out," and she says, "I saw this and I saw." No. Anyway. He says this, and I want to use this in life next time someone comes at me a certain way. He says, "No one's against you. We just know that you're wrong." I love that line.
That's a great line. I don't remember that.
I want to say that to somebody. No one's, can people get defensive? Why are you against me? I'm like, he's like, "No one's against me. We just know that you're wrong." That's all he said.
You're going to use that in the group page next
time. Right?
It's an argument. Hey, calm down. We're not against you. We just know you're wrong.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? And one funny line. The father also says something to the other son, and it reminds you of A Christmas Story. He says, "Everything we've worked for depends on you." And it totally reminds you when Ralphie's listening to the freaking Little Orphan Annie thing, and he goes, "Annie has a message for you." The way I burst out laughing because it sounded just like that. He says, "Everything we worked for depends on you." But anyway, that's all.
This movie does feel so much older, though. It really does.
Yeah, being black and white don't help.
Couldn't they get an Asian woman to play Ty?
Oh my God!
How offensive is that? Ty and Taiwan. That was the Asian couple's name, Taiwan.
That's hilarious.
Oh fuck! That was great though. How she set it up when she went up and she goes to she lets the girl out and she's like, "There's a what did she say? There's someone's in your bedroom." She said.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was another good part of the story. Martin's ex-wife, who has this horrible mutation, and he's kind of torn because he's not really a bad guy, even though he is technically the bad guy in the film.
Right. Well, he has family obligations.
Yeah, he's torn.
Yes,
but you get a sense of him being torn, and I enjoy it for that. If I didn't really think about a rating for this, I would probably go like a low half head explosion, probably like a 7 out of 10 for me.
7? Wow, I'm at a 5.5.
Maybe a 6.75, but I really enjoyed it. I did. I'm not rushing back to rewatch it, but I'm glad I saw it. I really liked it.
I had a 5, but just talking about that, I'd say 5.25. Just because of that ending again.
Yeah.
Right on. All right, that's good. Yeah.
Thanks, Dustin.
Yep, thanks, Dustin.
Thank you.
Right on. And if you guys want to tell us what to watch, just get on Patreon, www.patreon.com/explodingheads. Tell us what you want us to see, and we'll see it, and we'll talk about it. Oh, there's something else funny I got to tell you guys. Remember how last show we got the iTunes review, and the guy left us the 3 stars, and the reason for it was because of We make each other laugh. Well, you're not going to believe this. We just happened to, a few days after that came in, we got another one, but it's from the UK. And listen,
3-star?
This was left on August 5th. No, 5-star. I listened to a lot, probably too many podcasts about horror films, and this quickly became my favorite. All three of the hosts have knowledge about film, but also don't take themselves too seriously. They have great chemistry, especially when they go off about something completely random and just make each other laugh. I'll definitely recommend it. Top-notch podcast. Boom.
Awesome.
Comedy is subjective.
He likes that we make each other laugh. That's what I'm saying. So,
That's why we love the British and
Yeah,
the
we-
Scottish and the Irish too. The
Yeah.
Welsh not so much. No, I'm just
Except
kidding.
that potato guy from Camp Death 3. That Irish guy can go fuck himself.
you took me. I was going to say the same thing about the potato guy.
He took you.
Awesome. And you know what? I'm going to shout out two podcasts really quick. Our homie Scott Crawford, formerly of the Horror Drunks, is now doing a show called Podcast by the Cemetery. You can hear that on Legion. And our homie, listener of the show, Warren Money, has started his own podcast. The podcast isn't out yet, but they have the group page.
Terror at the Drive-In.
Terror at the Drive-In. I thought it's Weapons of Mass Destruction.
No, that's the. Maybe you're probably right, but I keep seeing him posting on Terror at the Drive-In.
What the hell's Terror at the Drive-In?
Ooh, maybe you don't know.
Now, how could I not know? It's freaking.
Maybe he's got two
Warren-
podcasts coming out.
Listen to me. Warren, Mark, and Dave, the Weapons of Mass Destruction movie podcast.
Oh, then I'm wrong. What the fuck?
What's it called? Weapons of the Drive? Or,
Drive-In.
no, this is Weapons of Mass Destruction.
Weapons of ass destruction.
Not ass destruction. It's not a porn.
That's a different type of film.
Right. So what's the thing? Date at the Drive-In. What's it called?
Terror at the Drive-In.
Terror at the Drive-In. Okay, sorry. Terror at the Drive-In. Let's see what that's all about. Okay, hold on. Let's see what this is. A Facebook group. How come no one told me about this? Who's on this group?
Warren Money.
I'm joining the group and then I'll find more out.
Wait, so he's legitimately coming out with two podcasts?
No. I think one of them is just like a horror page, and now this other one, the Weapons of Mass Destruction. So I didn't accept the invite. That's the reason why he invited me, but I hadn't accepted it. So now I'm in. That
You know what the
Weapons of
crazy
Mass
thing is?
Destruction.
I wasn't invited.
Yeah. It's
I
like,
wa-
oh wait, please don't tell Brandon we don't like him. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I'm against war and money.
Oh, shit. And the money that funds war.
Yeah, I don't fund war. War and money is no good. It
Well,
corrupts. War and
I'm looking
money
forward to it.
corrupts.
I'm looking forward to it. He said he kept telling me he was looking at doing it. This goes back like a year or so ago that he was looking into doing it, but he's not rushing in, which is great.
Yeah, but he's doing two.
No. We don't know if Terror at the Drive-In, that's just another page.
That could just be a horror group page.
Yeah.
Well, I just read it and it said something about upcoming podcast.
So,
And Dave is in there too. One of the guys, isn't it? Warren and Dave.
Maybe they changed the name and they're gonna take one down.
you know what I love about this? That Brandon's not in either one.
Well, he knew about Terror at the Drive-In and I didn't somehow. So
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't. I'm actually I'm a little hurt
No.
that I don't get invited to these groups.
Maybe you're not a friend.
Maybe
Are you
you-
friended?
Maybe
I'm
you
friends
haven't.
with Warren.
You're
I'm
friends
pretty
with
sure.
Warren?
Maybe you
Yeah.
didn't accept the invite. Maybe you did what I did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
maybe you just...
that could be. We get a lot of spam. I might have just been like, "Fuck this." Just
True. You
delete.
just might have swept
Like
left
Dave's
of the-
notes, I might have just hit delete all.
Delete. Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's awesome.
Me too. Are you looking forward to talking about Psycho 4?
Yeah, let's do it, and let's do it now.
All right, Psycho 4, The Beginning from 1990, made for TV. Norman Bates recalls his childhood with his abusive mother while fearing his unborn child will inherit his split personality disorder. This one's directed by Mick Garris.
I'll tell you that I've never was never a fan of this one. I like the beginning part with the really sexy girl and the fireworks and all that with Henry Coleman. Is that no? What's
Henry
Henry
Thomas.
Thomas?
Henry Coleman.
What'd you
Henry
say?
Coleman. What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah. Henry Thomas. And I really enjoyed it this time. More so than I remember. I always just thought it was average, passed it off as average. It's enjoyable.
It is enjoyable.
I really like the whole setup of the radio show. I think they could have put a couple more Easter eggs there. I actually looked back, and I don't know if the doctor. Oh, I think it is the doctor that's on the show.
Richmond. His
but
name
it's
is
not
Richmond.
the actual actor from the original. I was kind of hoping they would have tied it to like.
And the first name is even different.
Yeah, I know.
But
I looked that up, and I'm like, why did they just use the name at least of the psychiatrist from the first one?
I agree with
great.
That. I agree.
He certainly likes hearing himself talk. That's what Norman said about him. The music's the same. I like that. Yeah, exactly like you. Yes. the music returns, which is I like that. The Bernard Herrmann score comes back. It's kind of interesting. It never came back until now. So that was cool. Same lines from the original. Just a lot of stuff. Again, I think they were a little heavy-handed on some of the things. A couple times he says, not inordinately. Like, why would he?
Inordinate. I actually looked up inordinately because he kept saying it.
Well, you know why he said it, right? Because Marion Crane said it to him in that famous speech the first time they talk in the back room of the
parlor.
The parlor. Yeah. Unhappy, and she goes, "Oh, not inordinately." So because she said that once, he brings it back twice here. It's like fucking underlay in freaking A Nightmare 4. You know what I mean?
You're never going to let that underlay go.
Yeah, well,
it's the anniversary today.
It's a catchphrase. I know.
Yeah, Dave nearly went off on whoever posted that it was the anniversary. He's like, don't get me started.
Of the Dream
Master. No. I never say anything negative unless somebody asks me. Somebody provoked me. They said, Dave Z, what do you think of this? And I said, don't get me started.
It was me.
There you go. It was you. I never say anything negative when someone posts something up that they like or they're happy about. I never say, oh, fuck that movie. That's not my style. I never, especially these days, I don't want any confrontation. And people always say, talk about this. What do you think about this? What's going on? You know what I tell people? The only time I give strong opinions is on the podcast because nobody can argue back. And you know what? These guys never seem to argue back. So that works out. I mean, they can argue back. They just don't. And when they do, we disagree and we move on.
Well, that's it. That's what it's all about. This is opinion at the end of the day.
Yeah. Right. I noticed in this one, there's much more edge to Norman.
Norman doesn't make sense.
He's much different in this one. He's almost angrier and snappier.
But the character doesn't make sense. Norman kills. He doesn't know he's doing killings. He blacks out. He turns into Mother. He does the killings. He cleans up Mother's mess. So everything about this film, from that perspective, if you're a fan of the Norman Bates character, is wrong. He wouldn't say, "I'm going to kill my wife."
Well,
because she's gonna have a baby.
I disagree.
And I don't disagree, but that's the weakest part of this movie. It would have been fine had it just been a retelling of his life. And not, they wanted the capper to bring it back in the modern time to give it that slam dunk ending at the Bates house. But that's all the cliche shit that could have easily been left out.
I agree with you that I wound up, I think, enjoying the Henry Thomas flashbacks more than anything else. And granted, it's most of the film, but I think I enjoyed that part of the film more so than the radio station. But I think the reason why Norman is planning on killing, and you can basically say this would be his first kill, is just because of the fear of his offspring turning out like him. And that's why I justify it. Like, not even that he has to be Mother to kill, because he says, I'm planning on killing tonight. He plans on killing. He knows he's going to try and kill his wife because he can't have that baby born because he's so scared of the abuse that he suffered that this baby will grow up and be just like him.
But it's weird. It is weird and forced.
And
that line elicits laughter, which is like, because she got pregnant or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything about the delivery of the line, but I justify it, and I totally bought into it.
See, I guess that's where we differ. It doesn't make sense to me that he would do that. That's kind of extreme. He's gonna fucking kill her. This woman that basically saved his life after being institutionalized twice. He makes a connection with some woman. He bears his soul. She loves him. He loves her. Everything's going good in life. And just because she got pregnant, he's gonna throw it all away and he's gonna announce it on a radio show.
That's another thing I gotta bring up. because this one does something that ignores part 3. This one talks about Norman's father being killed by the bees. Not the bees! But what I realized while watching this film is that this film totally ignores part 3. In fact, I think it ignores part 2.
I would have said that, except the fact that he brings up the fact. Yeah, how many times am I going to say fact? What is it, the 22 shots page? Anyway, except that he brings up the fact that it was the second rash of killings. He's not just saying that I did something
so maybe
so many
part
years ago.
2, because I felt like Connie, who he winds up marrying, was the one from, was it the original institution? It would have to be the original time he was institutionalized.
But he says it was the second time of killings.
Did he?
Brings it up. It comes up that this was the second time there was killings. Now, if you think about this, there were no kills in part 2 that he was found guilty of.
That's
Remember,
true. That's why I thought this was a direct sequel to 1.
No, so part 3 is when he does get convicted.
Yeah, but then why is he back at the asylum again? Because he went crazy again, and then went back into the asylum at the end of part 3.
Then the main thing I find hard to believe is that he would have been released after part 3 again.
Of course he wouldn't.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Well, he wouldn't have, but that's why I didn't like this movie initially, but it exists, and so I just took it for how are they going to play with this? And they don't even try to get into that. He's out waiting from home. I would have just liked it better. Talk radio. Tell the story of the beginning. But to have him want to kill as Norman doesn't make sense.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And I guess, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant, but Mick Garris and Anthony Perkins were known to have been butting heads during this film for a lot of things that went on. Mm-hmm. Like Norman, who knows Norman Bates better than Anthony Perkins? And there was certain things that he didn't like going on with the character and everything else. And I'm not exactly, I don't want to say something that I'm wrong about, but I do know that there was a lot, they were clashing.
Well, I think it's because Mick Garris wanted Norman to be a sleepwalker in this, and it was going to be a direct continuation of Sleepwalkers.
I don't know. I just bought it. I just bought it given the fact that who he wanted to kill and the reason why. I get it. Like, could it have been done better? Sure. Could they have told a completely different story? But Henry Thomas was great. Olivia Hussey was great.
Yeah, she was good.
Yeah. Man, those scenes with him and his mother. Ugh, dirty.
I know, right? So strange. Strange.
Is it crazy that I masturbated during them?
I masturbated when Chet showed up.
And how come she called her Norma? Remember, he dressed her up like a boy, girl. Remember all that? He goes, oh, well, I'm going to dress you up like a girl. And then why would she, if her name is Norma, why would she call her son Norma? It would make sense if she wasn't named Norma, if her name was Helen, and his name is Norman. So what do you call a guy named Norma when you dress him up like a woman? Norma. It's you know what I mean? That's what you would say. But I don't know. I thought that was a little strange. And here's something else that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. His mother died at a young age. I didn't think about this till fucking now, but this actually affects the entire series.
Yeah.
She died at a young age. Why would you talk like an old lady for all those movies? Yeah. No, man, is that you? You know what I mean? What are you gawking at? Why would that be Olivia Hussey or someone?
Well, I think as the corpse ages, his voice, maybe his voice initially, if we had gotten a sequel to this one, would have been a young woman's voice.
Oh, yeah? Well, then how come Henry Thomas got in the car and he said, drive, whore? Remember the first time he dressed up his mother? Yeah. He talked like an old lady when he dressed up his mother. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, no, maybe okay, you're right. Maybe
why do they?
Maybe he just sees his mother as a nagging old woman.
They should have expanded that. I think what happened was they kept it in the Henry Thomas stage, but they probably should have gone another duration. Like it had an in between Norman, and that's where.
In between Norman.
Well, in between age. Because
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I know. They had the real young one at the funeral. Remember, she was tickling him and he laughed when he was a young boy, and then we had.
Yeah, why did she smack him? I mean, she's the one who's tickling him.
She's fucked up, apparently. That's the bottom line here. I don't get that at all. Why did that happen? I don't know.
Well, because I think that was just it. She's fucked.
Yeah, to show her two sides so drastically. She's playful and tickling, and then immediately she's a nasty bitch.
Right. And again, after the first kill, what does he say again? Blood, blood. Like, what? Enough with the bloodline. I don't get it. I don't know why. What the fuck is that?
I think it's just showing that Norman's consistent in his psychosis, drawn back to the same lines of dialogue, the same types of behavior. Given that, maybe we can forgive it a little.
Yeah, I guess. I know I sound like I'm coming down on it, and I'm really not. My rating isn't particularly low.
This was a first-time watch for me.
Oh, really? I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I ever saw this one, and I was pleasantly surprised by it.
Like I said at the beginning, the more I watch, and obviously because 2 I still love the same. The more I watch 3 and 4, the more they've come down over the years. The first times I saw them, I loved them. Subsequent views, they've come down. You know, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, why? You know, and there's just decisions they make in here that aren't consistent with what I feel the Norman Bates character is. That's all.
And I agree, and I've never been very high on this movie. This was my favorite watch. Now, I've only watched it 3 times, but I still think the last act is unnecessary, or just needed to be done differently.
They had to wrap up somehow. There had to be a reason for this movie to be made. So yeah, they could have just gone with a straight up flashback, but then you can't have Anthony Perkins in it. That's what Anthony Perkins is the draw. So you want to put him in a psycho movie. So they had to do something, and this is the best they came up with. It had to lead to a third act somehow. So this is what we get. But I hear you. The flashback stuff.
I like the ending too. I think you can. I think you could look at it 2 different ways if you wanted to. You don't have to necessarily pick a side as to what you think is going to happen.
I just don't care. I don't care about his wife, and I don't care about.
Yeah, well, they force her on it. In fact, I even had a note in my first half of notes for this was who the hell is Connie, because I don't even think they say it's his wife until later on in the film.
Then we get the phone call. You know,
Yeah.
he calls her and he goes, "Oh, it's my birthday. Meet me here." It's a bit morbid, isn't it? I'm like, morbid? This girl treated him in the freaking institution. That's the last place you want to go. Birthday or no birthday.
Didn't they say they forgot the cake?
Yeah, the first phone call was something about the cake.
Well, isn't there a whole opening credit sequence with the cake?
Yeah. On the phone, she calls.
Oh, okay.
But they never, yeah.
All right.
And then the old woman comes across and says, something about the cake. I thought that was Mrs. Spool. I'm like, what the hell is Mrs. Spool doing here?
Maybe the follow-up to this could be Son of Psycho.
There it is again. Yep. Son of Norman Bates, Part 5.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, that's the idea.
Oz Perkins can direct it.
How about Oz Perkins in Part 2?
Yeah, we forgot to mention that.
Yeah,
that's a scary scene too, man.
That is.
Yeah.
Isn't it, when he first returns home? Damn, that movie. Shit.
The creepiest line in this is when Olivia Hussey says to Henry Thomas, "Blot me."
Oh, yeah, with the freaking...
Blot me with that perfume. That's just a creepy scene.
Yeah.
I can hardly swallow. We can't have that now.
And I think they do try to make her look a little older, but not significantly older. I mean, that whole sequence with the poisoning, it happens. They should have been older, for sure.
They should.
I agree, Dave. It is a nitpick, and I agree. And that's why this movie is not in the same realm as 1, 2, and 3, for that matter. But it's just not nearly as low as I initially had it. I just had it as plainly average, like something that I never thought I'd have to watch again. I would watch this again.
I would too, because I'm a sucker for freaking Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates.
Yeah, I'd definitely watch this again. But I'm thinking about the killing now. Is it too early? And Norman, if anything, the complaint is Norman should have been older.
I think they both should have been. And
yeah, which in turn would make her older. But again, I don't really mind the fact that he talks with the old lady voice, even though he said he did it. My memory sucks, but even though he did it right away, I can buy it because that's like a nagging mother's voice. That's the way like kids kind of see their mothers at times, and given his psychosis based on everything he's been through and the fact that he can't stand this woman, it makes sense that he'd give her an ugly, distorted voice like that.
But I don't know that he can't stand her. I think he loves her. She just happens to...
It's weird. It's a complex relationship because I shouldn't say can't stand her because he's constantly defending her on the radio show and talking about how it's not all that bad. It wasn't all bad.
But if you follow the rest of the series, even Part 1, he's very defensive of her. And he's like, I had a great childhood. My mother and I were more than happy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's complex. I think there's a love-hate thing in there. Definitely.
Yep. Yep. How about that girl when she throws his underwear at him and he smells it?
Yeah.
And she asks him, she goes, "Is it a good smell?"
Yeah.
He says, "Not inordinately." He
Yeah.
answers.
That's when I looked up inordinately.
Who would say that? And if it didn't smell good, why would he continue to pursue her?
Which is weird though, because you said that's a callback line, but a callback line that would have happened before he was given the word inordinately, because it was given to by Marion. However, within the realm of the series, forgivable.
But they say it twice. He says it on the phone as an adult.
Yeah.
To CCH Pounder on the phone, Fran Ambrose.
Pounder.
Or whatever her name is.
No, it is. It just sounds like a porno name.
Right.
All right, Lexington Steel and CCH Pounder.
Nice. Or it sounds like a freaking hamburger.
Yeah, give me the quarter pounder, a Big Mac, and give me a CCH Pounder. No pickles.
Oh shit.
Can I ask something? There's one line in this movie, and I don't know if I've ever heard it, not to bring up potatoes again, but at one point somebody says, "All that faith and no potatoes?"
Yeah, what was that?
What the hell does that mean?
I don't get that. I heard that too. I thought I was hearing things.
I thought I was watching Camp Death 3 again.
No potatoes. I don't know. I don't understand that expression.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I just wrote it down here, so I had to ask about it to see if anybody knew if it's a popular saying or something.
I've never heard that. Did you look it up?
I actually did.
Look it up. I don't know. There's something else that's funny. How the fuck long does it take the boyfriend to die?
Oh my God!
What was it, Jason Voorhees? He just kept coming. How could he survive? He got poisoned. He came back. Jump scare. Fucking Michael Myers. What is this shit?
I will tell you, when she is about to take the drink,
yeah.
I get anxious.
The suspense of that is cool.
It's actually well done because it worked for what they needed, what they wanted to do there. It worked because I'm mad. I'm like, drink the fucking drink. Like,
right.
She's putting my hot body, and she's putting the cold drink against her skin. I'm like, just drink the fuck. I'm like Norman Bates at that point. Drink it, bitch.
Totally, man.
Oh man.
I'll tell you what though, since Bates Motel came out, and then watching this after watching Bates Motel, that definitely decreased it even more. Because you want to see freaking young Norman Bates, you watch that portrayal. And I'm not taking away from Henry Thomas's performance because it's fine. I'm taking away from
Freddie
the writing,
Highmore.
I guess.
Because Freddie Highmore is so much better.
Freddie Highmore is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not taking away from Henry Thomas because there's nothing wrong with him. But Freddie Highmore, yes, because he emulates Anthony Perkins perfectly and does a great job. Yeah. But I'm just saying, it's the writing of Bates Motel and the way they tribute it there, and the way the relationship between mother and son is in that, which makes perfect sense. Where in this, you look at this now, since Bates Motel came out, it's like, well, I had to go down a little more because I'm drawing comparisons, and maybe that's unfair, but what can I do? It is what it is.
Well, Bates Motel also fleshed out over 5 seasons. And
right.
This is an hour-and-a-half movie, right?
Right, but you could take what they did in 5 seasons, just in what encapsulates their relationship, and put that in that film. Just different things. Did you watch Bates Motel?
I did. I liked every season but the last.
You didn't like the last season?
No, it was a major letdown.
Ah, man, that sucks because I never watched it, and I planned on
I'm in the minority.
It eventually.
I'm in the minority.
People I feel like a lot of shows are like that, where there's always a letdown in the final season.
People went nuts. People went nuts. I hated the bait and switch. I hated, without going into details, I hated the casting. I just was not down with a lot of what they did in the final season. I thought it took away from everything that built up to what Psycho is.
That's fair. I've heard some people being disappointed with the actual final episode, but I haven't heard someone, the whole final season. I loved it all. The final episode, could it have been a little better? Yes, but it's not deterring me from my complete enjoyment of the whole series. So, you got to watch it, dude.
Yeah. No, I will.
I don't think you'd be disappointed. But we'll see. Get back to us. Watch that shit. So did you find out anything about potatoes or no?
I just found the quote listed in his quotes, but there's also that saying, all meat, no potatoes. So I wonder if it's just a play on that.
I thought about that too, but it doesn't really.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even find what reference it was where he said all that faith and no potatoes, or who said it. So I can't even remember. So if somebody knows, write in, email us, voicemail us.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Subscribe to us on iTunes while you're at it.
Give us your money.
Well, we got anything else? I've said all I'm going to say. I don't know about you guys.
I'm good.
I was pleasantly surprised for a first time view. I enjoyed it. This is a super solid franchise. I'm at a high mild rumble. I would say I'm right at that 6.75 range.
Huh.
Well, wow. Okay. You like loved it, and then 6.75.
I always say, like I say, 6 or above for me is good.
Well, I'm right at 6.
And that's where I am too. I'm right at 6.2, and that came up from about a 5 from my first views.
Yeah, so see, I'm only like a point ahead of you guys. I mean, I don't think I was blowing it that hard. I was just, we're playing devil's advocate here. One's taking one side. I'm just trying to defend it at least, or justify. That's what we do.
Right on. That's right. Right on. Well, what do we got? One more triple R from each of us, and then we can get the hell out, huh?
Hey, why don't I'll go first. I never go first, it seems, with these things.
Yeah,
I
go
start
first.
talking first, but I never go first. I am doing a 2018 film called The Meg.
Nice. The fucking Meg.
The Meg, as it's described on the B, action, horror, sci-fi. It's an hour and 53 minutes, rated PG. Someone said PG-13, but it's rated PG here. You know what? It's just a new fucking huge shark movie that came out. It's a mega blockbuster. What I want to get off...
It's a Meg? A blockbuster?
Mega. Yeah. It's a mega blockbuster. Good catch. I don't even want to get in the plot description. You can read it up yourself. What I want to talk about, and I've already noticed that a lot of people have been posting about this, so I'm glad to see people are thinking the way I am. I feel like some people just can't just let things go to the theater and have a good time anymore. And this is just a roller coaster popcorn movie. It's a shitload of fun. We brought the whole family to see it, and everybody loved it. I went and saw it in 3D. I don't know if the 3D added that much to it. I do think that some of the submersive water effects were effective, of course, in 3D. And if you wanted like a lot of things popping out at you, that really doesn't happen until the climax. The story itself is pretty simplistic, but there's enough twists and turns that it really keeps everything propelling forward, and it's just a super fun roller coaster ride. I will say that there are certain sequences that I actually was on the edge of my seat going, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And I kept turning to my wife going, this is way better than I was expecting it to be, because so many people were shitting on it, saying it was a crap film. I just say, if you go and expect a movie that takes elements from every shark movie you've ever seen before, and I'll specifically say Jaws 2, 3, and 4, and I'm going to go, well, those movies all kind of suck. Well, I actually like Jaws 2, and I like the 3D from part 3, and part 4 is so bad it's fun to watch, but you take elements from all those, soup them up to have like a prehistoric mega shark attacking people. It's probably even more fun than you're expecting. I wholeheartedly recommend it. It is just shy of a full exploding head. I'd say it's a very high half head explosion.
Nice.
Right on. I don't know if I'll like it, but
you like Kong Skull Island, you'll like this. I mean,
yeah.
If you know what's his face? I don't even know his name. The action guy. I have no problem with Statement. I have no problem with the people go, oh, I can't take him. I have no problem with him. I know him from the Expendable movies and Transporter or whatever like that. He was great in this. He was fun. All the secondary characters are great. Yeah, I think there's a high Chinese financial backing to this movie. So there's some Chinese actors in it. They are great. Check it out. And by the time you hear this review, I think you'll be able to go see it, and it won't be super packed in the theater.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm a trailer watcher. I know Dave isn't, but from the trailer, I think I know exactly what to expect from it. And from a Jason Statham movie, I think I know exactly what to expect. And it looks fun. So I'm glad you're giving it a positive review. Yeah. I know Derek liked it also. So
yeah, we were texting back and forth a little bit on there, and he's like, people just can't seem to have fun at the movies anymore either. And I wrote that, and he's like, yeah, no, it's just a fun movie. And he recommended a couple of other monster movies that are coming out this year as well. So yeah, awesome. I'm all about it. Lots of fun.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go. This is the movie called Cargo on Netflix. I thought Christian reviewed it, but he didn't. He just brought it up in the group page.
Yeah.
And I've been putting it off for a little bit. And I checked it out. And I got to tell you, I've said this before. I think I said this last week when I was talking about another zombie film, The Cured, that it seems like they have figured out what to do here with these zombie films the last couple of years. And they've gotten it right. And this is another shiny example of basically those episodes of The Walking Dead that are just intimate with just about a few people. That is the model you want to go with instead of the freaking running zombies all over the place and the generic shit. This, if you keep it about, a small group of people and have it intimate, and the zombies don't necessarily have to be your number one antagonist the entire time. Sometimes it's the threat of being infected and what's going to happen after you turn. And that's what's going on here, is that we have a father and he's bit. And after 48 hours, as soon as they get bit, they have to set this clock onto their body. And they have 48 hours in which to find a cure. Otherwise, you're just not going to be cured. So, and they think that they have a cure, but it's one of those things that you see in several zombie movies where if you go to this place, it's like a CDC or something, and they may have something there. And, of course, when they do get somewhere eventually, they find out, and this is a trope, but it's not what it's cracked up to be. And couple things happen one after another, and again, it's not things we haven't seen before, but the heart of the film is what's going to happen with this young child that he has. He has this young girl, less than 2 years old, and he's going to turn, and what's going to become of my daughter when I'm no longer in this world? If I can't get cured, I'm probably not going to get cured. I'm going to need some help. This is an Australian film. I should have said that off the bat. And there's another thing going on because there's like these natives to Australia that are there, almost like a tribe. And there's some strange things going on with them. It's a different lifestyle with them. And they have different beliefs as to what's going on and what caused this and how it's going to end. And this guy ends up hooking up with this young girl who's a member of this tribe. They end up being in the same bad place together as prisoners at one point, and then they both get out and they form a friendship. They're helping each other out, and there's a lot going on with their relationship. There's not a lot I'm going to say. There's a few startling discoveries along the way that are good. Even the beginning, even the setup to it, the way it begins, and something that goes down when someone gets bit. It all works well. It wraps up really good. I'm not going to say too much, but again, the streak continues of good zombie films. The last 3 or 4 that I've watched since last year, I've been on a roll. So, and I've been on a roll in general with 2018 horror still. So I'm happy. This is another one. It's the high. It's not a full head explosion, but it's the high end of a half, which is this year seems to be the year of the half head explosion, and I'm okay with that. And we had a lot of the higher end of the half. It's like the new saying here, the high end of the half. But it is what it is, But I'm happy with it. I mean, most people have Netflix. If you were on the fence, you should definitely check it out. If you're a parent, you can appreciate it even more. It tugs at the heartstrings a little bit. Yeah, another day.
Martin Freeman's performance was terrific.
You saw it as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I've seen it.
Good. What do you guys think about it?
I'm right there with you. I'm probably at the low end of a full head explosion, though.
Okay. Close enough.
The new thing with the low high end.
I know, right?
Well, we're checking with the new ones, too. And I mentioned on the page I'm a full head explosion. This is a top contender for my end of the year. It will all depend on that rewatch, and obviously I still haven't seen Hereditary, which I'm also expecting a lot from. So we'll see
next show, I think,
how the year unfolds. But I absolutely love this movie. It is all about the performances, but let's not forget how great it looks. And the effects in it as well. You know what? I didn't even know this movie existed. My wife said, "Hey, have you heard of this? It just premiered on Netflix, possibly that day." And she's like, let's turn it on. We turned it on, glued to our seats. And I think that's why I was just like, what the fuck? And then I found out it was based on a short film from a few years ago. And I guess they made a feature from it. And that's the history of the film. But I didn't know anything about it, wasn't expecting it. It wasn't on my list to see this year or anything else. Happened to show up on Netflix, checked it out, full head explosion. Can't wait to see it again.
Nice. Now, did you see Ravenous and The Cured this year? Or no?
I have not seen either of those, no. So I'm looking forward to those as well.
What about you, B?
I have seen both, and I recommend both highly.
So you've seen Ravenous, The Cured, and Cargo?
Yes. And all three are recommendations.
Right on. They're different films. Each one of them is different, but they're all zombie/infected. And something about the infections here, it's growth. It's something we haven't seen before in that respect as well. When you see these people that are infected, that they've been bit, and they have like gross things going on in their body, and as time goes on, it gets worse, and they're turning into something else. And man, I like the way they did that.
Yeah, that is cool.
But anyway, good. That's Cargo, and zombies have been pretty good the last couple of years. So don't be afraid of zombies. I mean, zombie movies. They're not as bad as they were for the last couple of years, unless you're talking about Day of the Dead, whatever the fuck that piece of shit was that you guys watched.
But again, I think I'm the only one that watched it, and I came in low with that. But I think Jason Lloyd rated it like a 6 or higher or whatever.
Wow.
But
I've heard nothing good. If he rated it that high, he's the highest I've heard then.
For what film? I'm sorry?
Day of the Dead Bloodline.
Oh, God. No, I'm not watching that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, what do we got? One more from you, B, and boom.
Yeah, I believe this one was talked about on the show, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because I had a pleasant experience with it, and it's Winchester.
I may have talked about it on the show. Again, I can't remember if I did or not.
I'm lucky I can remember the name of the movie, let alone if you talked about it. All right, so ensconced in her sprawling California mansion, eccentric firearm heiress Sarah Winchester believes she is haunted by the souls of people killed by the Winchester repeating rifle. Which right there is a great setup. I love it that finally a ghost story where we have a reason to believe that these ghosts exist because they all died at the hands of this woman and her company's main product, the Winchester rifle. And we have Dr. Eric Price, played by Jason Clarke, who is brought in to assess Mrs. Winchester's mental health at the behest of the Winchester company's other owners. And at first he's abusing his own prescriptions. So he's not sure if what's going on in the house with these spirits is a product of him being on drugs or if it's the truth as to what Sarah is telling him. The house, I love the house. The house might be my favorite part of the whole movie. It really is. It becomes a character of its own. It's 100 plus rooms, and it's spread out in a way that it still makes the house look small and claustrophobic, which I thought was brilliant.
Well, that's true of the house, right? The house
is it?
The house is actually true. This whole story is a fabrication.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Of the house. My wife was very intrigued by the whole house. This exists in real life.
In terms of the house that's always under construction?
The house that leads to rooms that go to nowhere and stairwells that lead to nowhere.
I absolutely love that about this. I loved when he was initially walking into the house, Dr. Price, and he's looking around and he's seeing the cleaning staff opening doors and cleaning just walls. Like there's nothing behind there, or just big open spaces where they would fall like 20 feet if they walked through them. It was terrific. The acting is quality. The cinematography I thought was well crafted, gothic in feel. Yeah, I was totally engaged in the story. I love how subtle and well thought out the twists were. They don't beat you over the head with them. They're well crafted, well laid out, and they totally make sense. And the performances are great. Jason Clarke is great as Dr. Price, and Helen Mirren. I mean, she really is a great actress. She's great in everything, and she plays Mrs. Winchester. The pacing for a longer movie, the pacing was really well done. I got to give this a half head explosion.
Wow. I think when I talked about, I'm happy to hear that. Sorry, finish your thought because I'll just add to the end.
No, I want to hear your thought. I'm kind of there. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I just love the idea of a creative, original ghost story. Even if it's based partially on truth and partially fabricated, I just love the way it was set up, and they got quality actors in here. And I just thought the look and the pace and everything was well done. I mean, it is a longer movie. It's close to 2 hours, but I was engaged.
And I hear you on certain aspects. It is gorgeous to look at. The cinematography is amazing. Helen Mirren is great. Like the performances for the two leads are great. I do find that it's top heavy. The first half is great, and then the second half I just fell out of, and it just became dull. And
that's all I hear about that film.
Boring.
That's what I keep hearing.
So I was totally, I thought setup was great, and I'm all in. I'm like, here we go, and it looked great. So I'm like, all right, all aboard. And I just said that out loud.
I was I was the complete opposite, because normally you see a ghost story and there's one ghost and it's always malevolent, but here you have a story with hundreds of ghosts. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what, as long as they were killed by the Winchester rifle, they are haunting this house. They make their way back to this house because they can't move on. And out of those hundreds, there's one malevolent force that they have to uncover and what's going on. And then there's an interesting side twist with Dr. Price and his backstory and his wife. And I just thought it was really well crafted. I mean,
and I'm glad. I wish I was there with you, because like what you're telling me now, I'm like, wow, I'm intrigued. But I remember watching it and I fell out, and I was just like, and it just lumbered on, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, maybe they could have cut it down. I mean, I don't usually love that movies are 2 hours long, but it didn't feel 2 hours long. But again, if it was 90 minutes, it would have been better served. But I'm hard pressed to think right now off the top of my head, what would I cut? Because everything looks so good.
And I was a mild grumble. I just felt like it had potential, but it didn't expand on anything, and at the end of the day, ended up being dull. Unfortunately, if that's cliche to say, so be it.
That's fair. That's fair.
I keep hearing that. Brandon's is the first positive interview I've heard. Everything I've heard from people talking online is always the word boring is thrown in almost every freaking time I heard somebody talk about this movie. So, you're going to make me watch this movie now with your review? Shit.
I'm sorry.
Oh, man. I don't know if
or you could just go with Christian and not watch it.
Hey, no,
Christian everybody else.
It looks great, Dave. You're not going to be like going. You're not getting a shitty produced film. It looks good. You're getting quality acting. But yeah, I admittedly I droned on. Like
just think about what you normally get with ghost films, and then think about this one when you're watching it, or in the end when you reflect on it. And I think it just offers something new and different.
Interesting.
Something I haven't seen before, and I like that about it.
Well, if I have time, I'll squeeze it in at the end of the year. That's what I'll do. It's going to be on the back burner, because I want to keep my average high. I've been doing good this year. I want to keep it that way. So I got to keep doing it.
The Dave Z method works, because I'll tell you what, I've also been, I mean, I've watched a lot of movies, but I am probably at like 86%. I think I calculated at like 6 or above, or 6.5 or above. So I'm really having a solid year in terms of quality films. I agree with you that it's the year of the half head explosion, because I'm yet to have like super standouts, but there's still films I have to see.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get there. And I don't know what we're talking about next show, but I think maybe we're talking about Hereditary if it's out by the time we record, because we have to do that review. And we're not 100% sure what we're going to do, so we're not even going to say anything about it. But
mystery.
It's a mystery. Yeah, probably more franchise stuff. That's what we're doing this year.
I think we should do a horror, since we're a horror podcast, not a mystery.
Nice. So yeah, I'm guessing it's a franchise. I think it's just going to be straight franchise till the end of the year. By the way, we're looking at it. But we'll see. Whatever. We reserve the right to do whatever we want to do, unless someone
maybe we won't do anything.
Maybe this is our last show. Nice. Okay, well, let's get out of here, man. We love you guys. Thanks everybody for listening. Please share the show, retweet it, tell your friends, tell your horror buddies, subscribe to us on iTunes and Patreon.
And I was gonna say, leave us emails and call in. Leave us voicemails. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Please do.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Peace.